And in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place.
We are not content with the stories. Slice lives come. Be my victim.
Through watching scenes of violence, through watching scenes of transgression, through watching scenes of horror. There's an enormous amount of sort of abattoir of excess.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Good evening, folks. Good evening and welcome to the 53rd episode of Double Feature Horror Show. And yes, I did swap the video out and check the screen to make sure, because I wasn't. It gets a little hazy. Gets a little hazy after 1 year in this business, doesn't it, Haryan?
Yeah, sorry, did you just hear the beep?
The beep?
Sorry.
No.
I unmuted my microphone as soon as I did it. A car outside tooted its horn, and I was like, God, I hope that didn't ruin the intro. Turns out it didn't. So.
Oh, thank God! Otherwise, we'd know how those Canadians feel.
Wee.
Well, I think if any stream of ours is going to be accepting of amateur broadcasting, it's going to be this one, the unconventional broadcasting, shall we say. I think we can let ourselves off the hook this time. How are you, chat? I hope you're fine. I'm going to push a button now and let an extra guest onto the stream. And before I speak to guests, I'll just point out I know we might have some new people here tonight. Something interesting happened. And if you are a new person, I will just say that what we do here on Double Feature Horror Show is talk about a topic relevant to horror movies for the first part of the stream, usually about 30-40 minutes, and then we go into a very deep analysis of a particular horror film, almost certainly focusing on the number of bullets fired, and weird editing choices, the essential bits, any references to The Shining I can cram in, and all gay readings that may or may not be justified by the particular story. Oh, is there one for this? I don't know, Haryan. Was there anything that could be used? Ooh.
I mean,
if there is, you'd find it.
Well, before we go any further, ask how you doing this week, Haryan?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I have been watching Hitchhiker's. Well, I've finished Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy today, the original BBC 1983 version. So I've been entertained by that. It's been nice palate cleansers for other terrible things I've been watching during my midday lunch hour. Because I'm making it through American Dad, and I'm on the last season, and it's lost its charm.
Oh,
I'll say.
Bless you. You're a completist. And
Exactly.
How about yourself, TCG?
I'm very good. How you doing, Horror Show? And hello, chat. Good evening, everyone. This feels odd doing it on a Thursday, I must say. It feels like a Tuesday.
I found it a little odd, but we have a very good reason for doing it on a Thursday. And that very good reason is our special guest, Last Things. Last Things, how are you doing, sir?
Hi, everybody. I'm doing well. I'm guessing I'm the only Yank on this stream, and you're doing this to accommodate my time zone, so I appreciate it.
Well, don't worry, man. Haryan's the only Welsh person here, so
That is true. I'm
All right.
100% Welsh. I'm not, in case you didn't know.
We do have standards. But no, it's absolutely fine. And to be honest, we like a cheeky Thursday stream occasionally. We usually call them the rogue streams, where technically they're not horror, but gosh darn it, I just want to talk about them. So we're used to it, and it is worth it to have you here. Would you be terribly embarrassed if I shilled you a bit?
I'll try not to blush.
Okay.
Go
okay.
right ahead.
Good.
Thanks.
Good. Stay nice and stoic. So, folks, I was really keen to get Last Things on. I absolutely adore his channel. If you're not subscribed to Last Things already, I would love you to subscribe. He does the kind of analysis that I am going to shamelessly plagiarize. If some of the next videos coming out look a little more professional, a little more well considered, you'll know I've stolen my ideas directly from Last Things. He has fantastic analysis on some horror movies and horror series that I think you'll enjoy, and really gets to the root of what makes horror interesting and workable. The obvious ones I'll have to point out are the ones that are more related to horror. So your analysis of the similarities or almost, I guess, mirror image would be the best way of describing it, between Bird Box and A Quiet Place. And of course, a really good analysis of Black Mirror and some of the differences in the underlying philosophies of the show as it moved on. So those are both amazing videos. Last Things channel is linked in the description. Do check him out after this. You will not regret it.
Oh, well, thanks very much, Chloe. And the admiration is mutual. So we can steal from one another. No, nothing wrong with that.
Oh, excellent. I am looking forward to your first gay reading montage set to terrible techno, as I have done maybe a couple of times. It still annoys me that didn't convince you, Haryan.
Of course it didn't convince. It was gay.
Yes, that was the whole point of.
No.
Anyway, that's going back into the deep lore, and we don't want to. We don't want to do that too much. Because I can't be too indulgent. I think we might see a fair few people coming to this, because something quite interesting happened to us. We were officially declared cool. I don't know if anyone knows this. We're cool now.
Cool.
We are
Yes.
certified cool.
How good is that? James Woods.
Oh, look at that.
James Woods calls us cool.
You know.
I love it.
Is it really bad? Is it really bad that I only know him from Family Guy and Simpson?
That was quite funny, yeah. For guys in Discord, when we got wind of this, right? Myself and Proper Horror Show were like, oh my god, James Woods. Harry is like, that dude from Family Guy.
I know him as the piece of candy man.
Breaks my heart a little bit, but I'll get over it. And actually, the credit for that should actually go to Murgoot. I don't know, is Murgoot in the chat?
Murgoot
Yes.
is in the chat.
Hello, Murgoot. Yes, it was your excellent shilling that made that rather unexpected thing happen.
I was very proud of that.
Yes.
Very proud of you for that.
But I will not overindulge. We have a rather packed one tonight, guys. So before we get into Videodrome, we have something incredibly timely, incredibly on point, and the topic, because the topic for this stream is about dangerous videotapes. How well did that work?
I don't know. I've not seen The Ring.
Terrible.
It does feel like it was a bit ahead of a curve, wasn't it? Because funnily enough, when I was watching this, I was thinking of The Ring. Because what was that? When was that? It was what, 2002, 2003 that came out? Like a whole 20 years after this. And I thought, yeah, they're a bit late to the party. Videodrome have already done it now.
Well, there's a heck of a lot that is coming straight from Videodrome, and I think not always with the satirical lens and not always with the introspection and self-awareness that is built into Videodrome. One thing I really love about this is that it's incredibly aware of itself, and it knows what the criticisms will be. And I'm not sure it exactly absolves itself, but it certainly does address a fair amount of the criticisms in a how can I say, in a thoughtful way that doesn't take over the whole thing, but does add to the enjoyment of the film. But if you folks are all right, I guess I'll just move us into the topic for tonight.
Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen.
What's the topic, Miss Horrorshow?
Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked. I'm over the moon. We're going to be returning to the history of the British, darn it.
Go on, third time.
British. Can someone else say it? I'm stuck on that.
I don't know what FC means. British
Football club?
Broadcasting.
Football club?
Well, actually, that's a really interesting point. What does FC stand for in this? It changes, and it changes in this episode. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, so it goes from film censorship to film certificate, I'm guessing.
Film classification, yeah, the British Board of Film Classification. We have covered its inception from the absolute chad that is T.P. O'Connor in 1912 through its rather troubled history in the 70s, and we're now at part 5, touching on the era that probably everyone is most likely to have some familiarity with, to be slightly aware of, and for this to have affected your lives directly. I'm going to take a gamble on that. Last things, can I ask you, as an American, are you aware of the video Nasties scandal in Britain in the 80s?
I can't say that I am.
Okay, don't worry. I'm just interested in how much this stuff travels. Well, this may be educational or just a really weird half hour, but I hope you enjoy it.
Okay. So I'm ready. I thought I'd keep pretty good tabs on you guys, but this at least has escaped my radar.
You're in for a treat, dude.
5 parts on our film classification board. But the reason I do it is because the film classification board, in a very real way, decides what films we saw and how we saw them. And that is particularly relevant in this episode. So I will get onto the topic and switch over, and this should hopefully go all super smoothly. Okay, that looks like everyone can see that. Yes. Oh, smooth. So smooth.
I like the white frame you put on these images.
Silence, I'm an amateur. All right. Okay, this should work. Right. Yes, it works. No, it doesn't. Okay. We'll go with this. We will go with this. All right, folks. So, where we left off was at the end of the 70s. Very exciting time. I'm not sure how familiar all of us are with that. And I won't make you say, but I'm thinking some of you in the audience remember the 70s right well. No? Don't trust me. This is all going to make sense.
It sounds like Gatsby remembers.
No, that's Pepper. It's my
okay.
turn now.
All right. Pet contributions are very welcome, folks. So to give you an outline, we left off last time at the end of the 70s. We are now into the 80s, and the president of the BBFC is James Furman, who is pictured... Nya. Can you see my mouse?
We can see your mouse. I thought it was the dude on the right, though.
Nah. All right. Darn it.
But
yeah, here's our boy, James Furman. If you have been to a British cinema, you know, around the time of The Matrix, you saw his signature at the start of every presentation.
Okay.
He was president from 1975 until 1999. He took over from the very unfortunate Stephen Murphy, who came on in 1971 to 1975 and was brought down by an absolutely horrendous legal controversy over who wanted to actually enforce the laws. Basically, no one. No one wanted to decide whether you could show films or not. If something got a bit spicy, say, I think Caligula was, yes, Fez, that was his direct signature. In fact, in this presentation, I have got you an example, and you will see his signature. So Caligula was a particular example. Basically, it was being put out, and technically, it is the job of the local borough councils to give the certificate and decide if the film can be shown or not, but they relied on the BBFC to tell them how spicy a film was. The BBFC was increasingly light touch at this time and basically did not want to really make decisions. So they passed the buck off to the borough councils, who would ban things or not ban things and then get sued by citizens for showing basically hardcore violent pornography that was technically banned. They were able to do this because of some fantastic legal draftsmanship that meant the Obscene Publications Act did not apply to films shown in cinemas.
Nice.
I will leave you with that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, any atrocity you like, as long as you film it, it's all good, baby. So
God, I remember the days of Live Leak.
it was like live leak in your local Cineplex. I'm exaggerating a tiny amount. So the Obscene Publications Act does begin to apply to cinema from 1977. And another result of the increasingly adult material getting into cinemas that would previously have been censored outright was that the X certificate that was introduced in 1951 was upgraded. It was boosted. It poke evolved. Or is it digivolved?
They both work.
Okay, good. Last things, America, do you still have an X certificate?
I don't know.
It's your sort of particularly adult one is NC-17, right?
Oh yeah. Well, no, we do. So like, I think triple X is usually when it's it's a explicitly adult movie or NC-17. Yeah, we
What
do.
about, just out of interest, where does rated R fall into that certification list?
Well, rated R. I mean, Videodrome would be rated R. I mean,
Right.
I guess R is everything short of pornography.
Got
right?
ya.
Like explicit sex being depicted on film. But R is the rating, and then PG-13, PG is when kids are in grade school, they start watching PG, and then G would be the lowest rating for Walt Disney films and things of that nature.
Got ya. Yeah, because ours over here is U for what your equivalent of G would be. And then, yeah, so for PG-13, for us, it's kind of different. We've got like two almost separate categories. We've got PG, which is your parental guidance stuff, naturally. And then in cinemas, you have like 12A. So kids under 12 can be accompanied by an adult, but it kind of falls within a lot of PG sort of criteria, if that makes sense. And then you've got your 15s and your 18s. We don't really have sort of letters, really.
We have that weird thing
as
where
you get higher, they switch the numbers, basically.
Interesting.
a weird thing like the R rating is either an 18 for us or a 15, and PG-13 can sometimes get into a 15. So we get some weird scenarios where
I think
see
the
a
Batman,
15 that's really light.
Yeah, I think the Batman, the one that's just come out over here, is a 15.
That is 15.
It's a 15, isn't it? But I think it's like is it like a PG-13 in America, or I don't know. I'll have to look that one up.
It's a very good film, by the way. I watched it at the weekend.
No, don't tell me.
Well, not very good. It's good.
Okay.
PG-13. Yeah, it's a PG-13 in America. Yeah. And yeah, it's a 15 over here.
So
my son was gutted.
Oh,
just let him watch it. Jesus.
He's 12. I'll get him in.
Oh yeah, 15. You can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
way too spicy. But well, back to our certificates. So we've beefed up the X certificate to now you have to be 18 or over to see an X-rated film. And one of the first films that our boy James Furman deals with when he comes in is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm sure a bunch of you recognized Leatherface there. He sees it and he says absolutely no. He's got an interesting take on films, but we won't go into that here. he basically says, no, too much, too rough. We're not letting it, even though it had been cut a few times and it got some minor releases in local borough councils. London, you will not be surprised. He does not allow it to have a national release.
Boo.
So, yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, banned. He condemned it as the pornography of terror. Shocking. So it
This
goes
I
out.
gotta see.
But what happens? What happens, guys? Oh my gosh, my gosh. Comes back, and it comes back because of the VHS.
Nice.
It is one of the first films out on VHS and manages to bypass the BBFC completely. So this was a surprise to me. I didn't know. I've been looking into it for another purpose, but the VHS starts quite early. You've got them being made in 1953, but they aren't really commercially viable until the collapse of Betamax in the 70s, which is its own long history we won't do here. We get the VHS in sort of widely available in the USA in 1977, in the UK in 1978. I've included a cool little advert there that made me happy. And one of the, well, you know, if there was a loophole with cinema broadcasts, you will not be surprised to hear that there is a loophole in VHS. Basically, when something came out on VHS, it did not have to be rated by the BBFC. They did not get a say in it. And
okay.
Very much like we see with the internet today, which has allowed people to completely bypass the major institutions until they started fighting back for their stranglehold, VHS let movie makers bypass the studios to a large extent, and certainly bypass the cinemas. Two institutions that had a rather large role in gatekeeping. That has some pluses. That has some minuses.
I was going to say, we like gatekeeping when it's us doing the gatekeeping.
Exactly. Done right.
Because we do
Absolutely.
it right, don't we?
Totally. I like my standards, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm on the fence.
Ugh.
Okay, gotcha.
we won't take a hard decision. I'm just going to go over the history because, frankly, I haven't fully made my mind. If it is made up, is basically I like my standards. Gosh darn it, my standards are good, and they're certainly better than the BBFC's. So yes, suddenly, basically anything can get sold. Video rental stores are getting these tapes that have not been vetted. They're just out. And it being the late 70s, there is some choice content, very choice content indeed.
Sorry, just go back a second. So what you're saying is, when these films were coming out on VHS, they didn't have a rating assigned to them, or
they did not have a rating. They had not been vetted in any way. Straight into the store.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, I mean, the live link comparison is not bad. So this is a, you know, there are two sides to this coin. So I've got some of the choice examples there, as you will not be surprised from the time. And this doesn't get mentioned in many an article, but it's something you do pick up quite obviously if you just look at who makes these. It being the late 70s, who is making the spiciest, most innovative, and most condemnable stuff?
The French.
Interesting. No,
It's probably not a bad shout.
The Italians.
I was
nailed
going
it.
to say,
I was
going to
say
Italians. Salo.
Absolutely nailed it. Yes, the Italians. So this is, you know, it's an interesting time. They have been producing very vivid films for a long time. I've got some of them on screen there. Some of them have gone into America and made things specifically for the American audience.
Man, can I just... When are we watching Driller Killer?
I knew you'd like the Driller Killer. We'll have to work that for it. I did not like that movie. I did not like that movie at all.
I just realised Haryan didn't open with "What Up, My Drillers."
You know, I'm trying to be unpredictable here. You know, throw anything out.
I like that you shake it up. Yeah. So the original Italian giallo guys, Diodato, crikey, Argento, Fulci, Bartha, they're all, well, Bartha's a bit earlier, but they're all producing, they're all being discovered. Their stuff is coming out badly dubbed, uncensored, unedited. It is entertaining. And of course, some of the American creators who have been inspired by giallo are also getting their stuff out there, you know, and there is a certain amateurishness to it. It's not exactly stuff you'd want to watch with the family. And the stuff is, you know, quite a mix of very graphic horror and straight up porn. Oh gosh, I'm getting a tad confused. I think Fulci is New York Ripper. That's probably a good example of one of the real cultural clashes in the mindsets in the filmmakers, if you ever want to watch that. But it's not all sort of condemnable stuff, or not stuff that I would personally condemn, because you actually end up with some creators getting out there who have actually gone on to have massive mainstream success and respectability. People that you will know, you will have heard of, and you will have seen their movies. So that's going to be Dario Argento, who I think you will probably know. And then obviously Sam Raimi, who already had a fair amount of mainstream success, but then of course the Spider-Man movies absolutely catapult him. And Wes Craven, of course, Tobe Hooper of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist was also caught up in this, unfortunately. So it is a mixed bag.
Was Peter Jackson caught up in that? Was that around his time?
Ooh, no. Peter Jackson is too late for this. I think he was not making anything until the very late 80s.
Right.
So, I don't think Bad Taste or Meet the Feebles got on the list.
Got ya.
How the man that, sorry to get, I don't mean to get sidetracked, but the fact that the man that made Meet the Feebles was ever handed the keys to Lord of the Rings, just like, but it just,
it's crazy.
I mean, I know it was like it was before the era of one being canceled, but like who was like, yes, this is the man. And I'm not saying he didn't do a great job, but it's like, I mean, what would he have had to have done? Like, did he need to make a snuff film? Like what? Like here's a satanic Muppet film. The most depraved film maybe I've ever seen in my life, and they're like, yeah, no, this is the next George Lucas. He needs to adapt Tolkien, and let's give him all the money he needs for this trilogy. I just don't. I want someone to put me in contact with the executive producer that was like, yeah, Peter, you're our man.
It's got to be Heavenly Creatures. You know, that is a miracle worker. Somehow he produces Heavenly Creatures to show you, like, guys, trust me, I can do a normal film, kind of, mostly normal. Only like 5 fantasy sequences. It's fine. Yeah. I really like that film, by the way. Have you seen Heavenly Creatures?
It's a good film. I guess it's not like, I don't think that it should like disbar somebody from directing Lord of the Rings, but I don't know why it would recommend somebody for Lord of the Rings, because it's certainly not a fantasy epic, you know, but it is a good movie. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. I'm glad you like it. So, okay, so all these films are out there and you start to get a bit of concern. Not helped by the films themselves. Obviously, I showed you the Driller Killer cover, which is quite lurid, you know. They took out some advertising, and that advertising got attention and drew complaints. So that's I think 79. And this absolutely cracks me up. I got this from one covering of the affair. I haven't seen it repeated anywhere else, but I really, really hope this is true. Apparently, Go Video, the distributors of the 1980 Ruggero Deodato film Cannibal Holocaust, they they surreptitiously grasped themselves up to the campaigning organizations that were trying to get this stuff banned because they thought that would generate more publicity for themselves.
Oof.
I love the idea of them just sort of, oh god, you definitely don't want to look at our film Cannibal Holocaust. No, it's very bad. No. But well, hey, maybe it worked. We still talk about it today.
Maybe.
true.
I was say the Stry sound effects has probably worked in the long term, isn't it? If we're still talking about it to this day.
Yeah, totally. I mean, very, very unconventional method, but hey, yes, make use of the Streisand effect. So what happens with all this out there? Well, reports are going out. People are concerned. It attracts the attention of the police, who end up raiding video shops because people are really concerned. They're super concerned about this stuff. Oh,
Is that real?
they do. Yeah, they went
I do
around
believe.
raiding video rental stores, and handily, they had a list. They had a list of specific
They
titles.
raided video shops with a shopping list. That is amazing.
Well,
They had a list of
all I can
70,
think is like FBI open up.
72 films that were the list. Now, this is where it comes from. We call this the Video Nasties scandal because they were on a list. They were being referred to in the campaigning as Video Nasties. I can't confirm if that came directly from the campaigning organisation led by Mary Whitehouse or the Daily Mail, but the Daily Mail coverage of it is very funny. And yeah, so they create this list and they go around raiding your local video store. I did see one account of them raiding a copy of Dolly Parton's musical, The Littlest Whorehouse in Texas. It's a PG film, but you know, you can see why.
I think of two very big reasons why.
Oh gosh, no.
Oh, nice.
Filth people, family friendly stream. And there was real concern about this. There was real concern. The campaigning against this is it hits the front pages, and then it is really bolstered by Mary Whitehouse and the National Viewers and Listeners Association, the NVLA. Now, they had mostly focused on what was going on the BBC, on broadcast television, but they really pivoted onto this because a lot of people, this is portrayed as hysteria, but this was some serious concern that people had. And they made some arguments about why it's a particular concern with VHS that I think we can actually say is, fairly understandable. These films haven't been vetted at all. A lot of them won't have had much of a reputation, although the cover kind of gives the game away. And when it goes into your home, just the very nature of it being on VHS changes things. It's in your home. There isn't any gatekeeping on it. Your children can have access to it. And furthermore, because it's a video, you can pause it and presumably enjoy the more, shall we say, explicit bits yourself. There's even the joking reference in Scream, if you remember, about all the right things and what you can see if you pause it at just the right place.
Oh, yeah.
I'll leave that to Scream fans. And as I pointed out previously, these things were frequently uncut. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre, having gone through 3 rounds of cuts to get a very limited release in a few select London boroughs, suddenly goes out on VHS completely uncensored.
I'm sorry, I just see Margaret in the chat. Say her name 3 times and the Britisher will appear.
Yeah, the British are not a fan of Mary Whitehouse. I think she's a doll. In fact, let's get Mary up. I think we should get... Oh, that's not worked, has it? There we go. There we go, folks. There's Mary at the bottom there with the sign. She's lovely. For all the ridicule heaped on her, I can't be against her. I think she had She had good intentions.
She was just a concerned little old lady at the end of the day, weren't she?
Yeah. And so, yes, the NVLA campaigns and is successful. They're just writing directly to BBC. They're writing to Parliament, and their cause is taken up. Imagine an MP actually listening to your concerns. Graham Bright, the MP for Cambridgeshire, launches a private members bill that becomes the Video Recordings Act. And the Video Recordings Act has the effect that you can see up on there, that effectively all videos had to be rated by the BBFC.
Another reason not to vote Conservative.
This did indeed mean a massive increase in the BBFC budget. Although we aren't super affected by this, in fairness, as the BBFC gets almost all its money just from basically charging people to get a rating.
Right.
That's where, as far as I can gather, all their income comes from. I might as well sort of this obviously causes some irritation to smaller studios who have to submit their material over and over again to get the desired certificate, which if you're a major studio you can afford to do, but if you're not a major studio, that can be quite a significant charge, because you pay a flat fee plus a certain charge per minute of film.
I was going to say, do you know what that charge was, just out of interest?
Yeah, hang on, I can...
I think you might have mentioned it on a previous one.
Yeah.
You did.
I will look it up, because I love telling this.
Because that's quite interesting if they've got a fixed fee, and obviously, like you say, if like the smaller production companies would naturally have a harder time of it, because the budgets would naturally be tighter, and it does make you wonder whether there was some kind of incentive from the BBFC, if that was their only source of revenue, whether there would be some sort of incentive for them to sort of knock it back maybe 2 or 3 times just to get a little bit of extra in their pockets. Just find something to moan about, and hope they'll cough up another round of fees to try and get their movie out.
Yeah, I cannot find it. I saw a reference. I know it was £107 for the initial submission. I'm trying to find what it was at the time. Art and film. No, I cannot find it. But we'll just have to finish off. And the punchline essentially is a man was very annoyed about having to resubmit and felt that the system was very weighted in favour of the big studios. Can't disagree, if I'm honest. And so he submitted a film to the BBFC called Paint Drying. It was 10 hours long. And
it was literally paint drying, I assume.
Yep, it is literally 10 hours
brilliant.
of paint drying. And he knew that they would have to watch all of it, to be sure.
Oh,
That Star Wars girl would probably love that. I don't think you'll get that EFOP reference.
No,
she said on stream one time, like, watching paint dry is actually entertaining, and the whole chat was like, what? But she's an artist, so who am I to judge?
Oh, crikey. I should point out that the chap you see on there, who is not James Furman, that is Graham Bright. So just so you can picture the chap. And, well, some of the fallout from this I thought would be interesting. They had to hire new people and a whole load of new people into the BBFC to do all this. I thought you might like that.
We distance ourselves with ridiculous language. Erections were described in terms of the angle of the dangle. De minimis. The angle of the dangle. Oh, mate, I'm gonna have to tell my wife that.
I think you might enjoy some of that. Yeah, I was looking into what it was like for people working there, and I found this interesting article in The Guardian. I disagree quite substantially with the author, but her account of working as a censor is quite interesting and engaging, and I just thought I'd get you some interesting stuff from that there.
Wait,
she wasn't a fan. She interestingly, you've got this weird complaint coming in from them. They're having to review so much more as a result because of the now having to review everything that gets a home release as well. Because a lot of these things, like Chinese soap operas,
Oh my God, yeah, have you seen?
Bollywood musicals, a lot of them they are not getting cinema releases. But if they're getting home video release, bad luck. BBFC has to see them. Imagine.
I don't know what's worse, sitting through 3 hours of Neighbours in Cantonese or Barney the Dinosaur. I mean, I'm sure I heard somewhere that I don't know if it was Guantanamo Bay, but in some sort of like detainment camp, they would actually play the inmates Barney the Dinosaur over and over again to break them down, to get them to talk. And apparently, it was surprisingly effective.
Crikey. You know, I meant to bring this up soon because I did think this is one of the things that makes me quite sympathetic to Mary Whitehouse, because I was going to ask you guys, like, I remember very clearly, like, I saw my first 18 rated film when I was, I think, about 10, something like that.
Oof.
And, you know, and that was just on a VHS. That was around, I think my memory is that it was Aliens, which I think is not bad.
That's pretty lucky for your first 18 rated, I'd say.
Pretty classy stuff. How about, I mean, when did you guys manage to see your first 18 rated, or I guess last things for you it would be R rated?
It's funny you mention Alien Chloe, because I don't know what age I was precisely. It was probably around 10, but whatever it was horror. It was, I mean, yeah, Alien is classy, but it was still barbarically too young to watch. I had like a wacky aunt who introduced me to the film, and I could not get up to piss at night until I was in my 20s after I saw it. And yeah, it was. I mean, I'm sure there are. I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been Meet the Feebles.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm glad that maybe that is in some ways what inculcated like my fine aesthetic sensibilities on the one hand, but on the other hand, it was etched in my imagination, and I definitely would have appreciated a bit more caution from my parents in exposing me to that thing.
Yeah, for
That's
me,
impressive, though.
for me, I saw. I'm trying to think. I know I saw it when I was about 5 or 6.
Oh wow!
Full disclosure, my mum didn't know about that until I basically fessed up, as I wouldn't sleep for like weeks, like literal Bart Simpson can't sleep, clown will eat me, rocking in my bed. Like Richard, I saw RoboCop when I was quite young as well. I fell in love with that movie to this day. It's one of my favourite films. Yeah, Terminator as well. I think the first Terminator was an 18 when it was first released as well, and I'm pretty sure we had that on video as a kid. So yeah, when it came to sort of like non-horror 18s, my parents weren't too bothered about it. But yeah, the horror side of things, and unless she wasn't around, then I was then I'd try and catch what I could.
Yeah. How about you, Haryan?
As usual for me, I've got to go with video games, because I can't tell you what my first 18 rated film was, and I can't tell you when I watched it either. I unironically think I could probably say I didn't watch an 18 rated film until I was actually 18 plus.
Oh my God, I was going to mean that. I was going to joke that.
I genuinely think that actually happened to me, but I have been playing Left 4 Dead since it came out. I think I was 10. That's an 18 rated game, and I've been playing. I think Counter-Strike was 15, so that doesn't really count. But I've been playing that since I was about 8. Yeah, 18 rated games I've been playing since I was about. I guess you could call Left 4 Dead a horror game. It's zombies.
Yeah.
Not. I mean, I didn't find it. I guess the witches were quite scary, but it was kind of like, oh, I want to dome her in the head with a shotgun rather than like, oh, it's gonna scare me.
I mean, to be fair, I won't touch horror games mostly. I think I've played Left 4 Dead with you once, I think.
Yeah,
but-
it's more
but like-
action than horror.
Yeah, but like Resident Evil. I remember that when the Resident Evil games first came out.
Oh, it might.
would-
Oh no, right. Yeah.
I wouldn't touch them. In fact, I still won't play them to this day. I have very bad memories.
Yeah, I was gonna say
One memory in particular, I think it was Resident Evil 3.
Mm.
It was me and a group of my mates, and one of them was playing it. And that the older games, they used to have that door animation when you went in between rooms to mask
See
it as
him
a
on the
loading scene.
door and open it. Yeah.
Well, it went through one room, and I'm thinking, it's going to be one of those loading scenes, like those little loading animations. And this bloody hand comes out and tries to go at his ankles. And I've jumped from one end of the room to the other, screaming like a girl. My mates never live that down.
So yeah, dude, you think that's bad? Like I had Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets on my GameCube. I must have been about, I don't know, 7.
Yeah.
And there's a bit where you got to learn one of the spells, and because Harry Potter the games like are totally true to the book, every time you get a spell you have to go through this like assault course of stuff. And in one of them, I didn't know this, but there were ghosts, and the first ghost you see, you're like, it's like a Lohomor you learn or something. It opens this door and a ghost just comes straight at you. And I was like, oh my! I like jumped off my seat, jumped forward, went straight to my GameCube and pressed the off button.
Yeah.
And like half a second later, I'm like, that was stupid. I didn't save.
Did you did you ever play PT, the demo?
No, I never played PT. I watched the gameplay of it though.
That was I played that, and I had my wife with me at the time when I was watching it, playing it. I swear to God, I was so scared to complete it. So scared. I was. There were points in it, and I was like, oh yeah. Take over, I can't do it. She's like, no, you could do it. And I'm like, I can't, getting actually emotionally distressed by this, because every time I'm going around, nothing's happening, and I'm just waiting for something. It was the anticipation of something happening. It just got me. And then like when like you'd see like a ghost woman like walk past the window, that's it, run around the other room, can't go through because the door's now locked that side, so you've got to go through it. And I'm like, I can't do this. And I ended up like leaning on a walkthrough to get through it, because I was like, I want to complete it, but I can't do it on my own.
Yeah, that's I mean, if you ever watch my playthrough of Soma, which I have completed.
He hasn't, he's lying.
Yeah, there are times in that when I'm like, guys, give me a minute. I'm shit. I can't even open my next beer. I'm shaking that much.
It's so bad. I think for me, like I can watch horror films all day. But it's because I think the difference between that and a game naturally is because you're the one in control. And for me, it's that sense of control. Now, my actions are going to determine what happens next. And I don't know, man.
Depends on the horror game, really.
Yeah, I blame Resident Evil for it. I blame Resident Evil when I look back on it now, and you obviously see that like how like far the graphics have come since then. I look at those games and I laugh. I can watch people play it, but even to this day, the old PS1 version, put a controller in my hand and say, give that game a go. No, not going near it.
You become so involved. I mean, for me, it's Fatal Frame 2. I became very unpopular in a rented house because I screamed my head off at about 1 a.m. playing it. It was one of those, nearly done with a bit, and just a scare completely got me, and I properly shrieked. It was... Anyway, sorry. Sorry, I'm seeing people of a similar experience here. Lots of early access, and
Leisure Suit Larry was horrific. Yes.
Oh no, Murphy, no. Very, very. We don't reference that game on this channel.
Wow.
Not that I know what that is, but there's kind of an interesting thing here, because for all the, I think we can say, justified concern about really young people having access to very adult material, it doesn't necessarily solve the problem, as I think we demonstrated. Like, you
I've watched Live Leak. I watched Live Leak at 50.
There is an admirable intention here, but realistically,
it's for the parents more than anything.
Well,
I mean,
it's sort of the thing we. Sorry, I cut into you there.
I mean, my parents just used to say, "Oh, it's rated 18 for a reason. You have to wait." Which they did say up until I was about 16. But as I said, I just don't remember the first 18 rated film I watched, and I wouldn't be surprised if I was 16, or probably even 18, because I didn't care at 16, because I'm like, oh, Left 4 Dead's really fun. So it's more for the parents more than it is to ban kids from watching it, really. I mean, that's why 12A, it's like, it's fine if your parents are there.
It's an interesting one. I just as part of a meta narrative of the BBFC basically not censoring, and we should point out at this point, while all this is happening, this is kicking off 1982 particularly, and then it's 1984 that the Private Members Bill introduced by crikey, what's his name? Graham Bright, becomes the Video Recordings Act 1984. The BBFC is still the British Board of Film Censorship at that point. It only switches over to become the British Board of Film Classification in 1984. Sort of still being a censorship bureau in 1984 looks a bit dodgy. But so gosh, I don't know. I'm just torn about it because they just increasingly let so much through that it's like any dangerous product that once it's on the market, you are sort of offsetting the opinion, the decision to people who might not be able to make it and might say that, well, since this material was passed, it's probably okay. But that's a much wider topic, and we're getting into the area of whether what sort of censorship there should be, if any at all. So that's a much wider topic than I want to deal with today. So I'll round off on our last slide, which is just following up some of the repercussions from this. As you may have noticed, as tends to happen when there is a rush of notably more extreme material, the BBFC tends to not censor it and tends to just beef up its ratings game or switch its ratings game around. This will be the 4th time that we've seen them do that. I do tend to organise these topics around rating changes in the actual film classifications to give us a bit of a structure, but I just thought the Video Nasties situation is too infamous to ignore. So what we have as a result of this, and you will note slightly preceding the Video Recordings Act, an introduction of the first official 18 certificate. We've had that clarified. There is no AA rating anymore. There is no X rating. We're going with 15 and we're going with 18 and the R18 restricted, which then gets sort of redesigned and polished, and then you get effectively the same situation, just looking a bit different with a redesign. But there is the 18 rating that we all know and love. Something that is worth more extended discussion that we won't do today is very shortly after is the introduction of a new rating demonstrated below, the 12. Now, I wouldn't really go into this, and I'm not going to go into it much, but there's something really interesting about this. The first film to be rated 12 was Batman. You can see James Furman's signature there on the certificate.
Mm-hmm.
But when Batman goes out onto VHS, as you can see just to the right of it, you'll notice it's not rated 12. Gets a little upgrade there. And that's very much reflecting the sort of aftermath of the Video Nasties affair.
Right.
When something goes to home release, quite a few times the BBFC will issue it a harsher certificate. Now, sometimes more material has gone into it, possibly to entice people to buy. They'll say, it's an extended edition, it's a director's cut, we've added more material that wasn't in cinemas. They can do that as a bit of a gimmick. But sometimes it was that awareness that it would be in the family home and children would have greater access to it that makes them rate them a bit harsher. They did it to Mrs. Doubtfire, but I thought that wouldn't be as fun. I just thought it was funnier if it was Batman. So I've used that as the example. That brings us up to 1989, folks. 1989 in the history of the British Board of Film Classification. You are welcome.
We're almost in the 21st century.
Exactly. And think, guys, we're probably only 2 parts away from being able to talk about German film classification.
Are you gonna give that whole lecture in German?
Wahrscheinlich. No. I won't do that. But we'll cut it off there, guys. We've cut it off. That is our topic section. We're done, and now we will discuss the main event, Videodrome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a film.
Yeah, I thought I'd bring that in. I'd shake it up a bit. Why not? Why not actually discuss the topic?
Was it rated 18?
Topic.
It was rated 18. Weirdly, it was not rated a video nasty.
Oh.
It was not in the list. Do you think it should have been?
With some of the bits, yeah.
Yeah. I'd say so.
What I want to do to kick us off is start off just sort of asking about your general awareness of this film before watching. So if I could start with you last things, just like to know, had you watched Videodrome before? Are you generally aware of Cronenberg? Would you count yourself as a fan of him?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I first watched Videodrome when I was in college in the early 2000s. This kind of, when I think back to all of like the horror movies and rated R movies that crossed my radar when I was younger, it's kind of miraculous that I didn't wind up watching it when I was a kid. But I was in my 20s. I think that's a blessing. I've seen the movie several times. It's probably, I think it's fair to say it's my favorite Cronenberg film, and I would definitely count myself as a Cronenberg fan.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly one of my, in fact, I mean, Chloe knows this. I requested that we do a Videodrome stream together when I heard she was going to be focusing on some horror movies from this era. So it's probably one of my, probably in one of my top three favorite horror movies, maybe one of my top 5 favorite films of all time.
Oh, wonderful. This was originally going to be in a separate arc. I've got a disturbing footage horror film arc planned, but I was a little too keen. And when you said you were interested in this movie, I was like, you know what? It's a sci-fi horror. Yeah, we'll it's going to go in the 80s sci-fi horror arc. We'll do that. And then that leaves me more room for other films in the disturbing footage arc. But yes, that's some of the behind-the-scenes details. And I can totally see this being the number one Cronenberg. It's a tough call. It probably is for me, mostly just because I've rewatched it so many times, and each time I rewatch it, I tend to appreciate it a bit more. But Existenz, I don't know. I kind of like that as well. But I'll go around the panel. How about TCG? What was your awareness of Videodrome?
None. I wasn't aware of it. Yeah, this is a completely new experience for myself.
Mm. Yeah, it was not a major hit, but it is definitely a cult film. It was really the first time that Cronenberg got access to a big budget. He'd had some massive successes. So I think the big one that came before this was Scanners.
Okay.
Have you heard of Scanners?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, to be fair.
Okay.
Maybe that's one that we should cover. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. I've only seen it the once, and I thought it quite memorable, but not as polished as this. But that was a big success, and basically on the back of that, a few studios threw some money at him. And it let him be a lot more ambitious and work with some really cool people. So he'd previously been using a few interesting sort of independent film production schemes in Canada.
Yeah.
Which obviously, doesn't afford the greatest budget, as I think you saw from The Brood when we covered that.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. This one, he got $5.9 million to play with, which, not a huge amount, but yeah, in 1983, he did a heck of a lot with it.
Yeah, but you know what I'm like. I'm a sucker for practical effects.
Oh my gosh, and we got them in this.
Oh, didn't
we?
We
will
just?
discuss the practicals.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And Haryan. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, as usual with me, I didn't know much, if anything, about this film. But I saw Cronenberg directing, and did he write this as well?
Oh, that's a really good question. He probably did.
He did write it, yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He's very hands-on. He really is. He's a very active, involved filmmaker.
Yeah, I was expecting good things from it. Compared to the other Cronenberg stuff I've seen, it didn't quite reach that mark for me on first impressions. But I mean, we're going to talk about it for the next, hour and a half at the very least. So I'm going to keep an open mind to it. But this score, I think, as you said before with the prediction, you're not sure what to give it. And I don't blame you for that, because it's probably it's probably quite low at the moment, just from first impressions. But as I say, we're going through it, and hopefully some things I point out might be answered, and things like that. So
interesting. Yeah, I mean, before I did my rewatch, I guessed you would. I was thinking you would rate it quite low, because I thought the story wouldn't work for you very well. But and then rewatching, I thought, oh no, maybe it will. Just because of how much you liked Possessor, I thought, oh, maybe he'll go for it.
Yeah, because first time I watched Possessor, I was like, wow, this is great. I'm getting everything. On this one, I as soon as I finished watching it, I'm like, well, I need to try and piece all this together, because it's not really making sense. But then I went for a run earlier and was thinking about it on that, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I can give it more credit for certain things that I'm not going to spoil yet, because we're not giving the spoiler warning.
That's cool. Or we should probably do that now. Do you want to? Well, let's warn everyone. We are going to spoil the heck out of this film. We'll be talking everything in great depth. If you have not watched Videodrome and you wish to remain unspoiled, then feel free to drop out and then watch it and then come back for some analysis. If you don't mind being spoiled, then stick around. You're very welcome. And since you are here, and because we're on YouTube, and we have to shamelessly shill,
you see that subscribe button, you point your weird gun hand at it, and you shoot it 3 times till it starts having a seizure and turning into some weird Cronenberg monster.
Absolutely. Form some weird symbiotic unhealthy relationship with this channel by subscribing, so that this channel kind of digs itself into you in a almost tumor-like fashion, causing nothing but positive results for you and your social life when you talk about the kind of channels that you watch.
Take that like button, put it on an operating table, and watch it die.
Brilliant. I know Susan loves it when we shill like this, but yeah, seriously, subscribe. It'll be lovely. I appreciate it. It helps me feel loved and appreciated when I talk about the history of the BBFC for the 5th time. Okay, no, that would be great. So full spoiler mode engaged. We will talk Videodrome. I love this film. I love that this is the opening thing we see, and this is the consistent motif throughout the movie, that you keep getting introduced to characters, and before you see them in the flesh, you see them on the screen. And they are relentless with this. They do it over and over again.
Am I right in saying as well, it's James Woods doing this is Civic TV bit at the beginning as well on the video? It does sound a lot like him. Oh,
I did not catch that. I'm not sure about that.
But this This
Anyone?
seems quite cool because I didn't really sort of know what was happening at this point, because I was thinking, is this, because again I knew nothing about this movie, so I was thinking, oh, is this some sort of like futuristic thing going on here? Like, is she actually speaking to him live? And then obviously you find out how that all happens later. But yeah, I was quite this intrigued me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it intrigued Pepper as well, if you heard that.
I did. I love cat involvement. That's super appreciated. I mean, something we'll see throughout this. I absolutely love it. It's like the prediction of, in sort of like contrast to, say, Demon Seed that we watched, where it predicted the technology and it predicted the usage. You know, it had the teleconferencing, it had the Home Assistant, it was the AI that understands all languages and translates for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you meant in this. I'm like, where's the Home Assistant?
Oh no, sorry.
Demon Seed, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
In Demon Seed. In this, it's like there's an amazing understanding of how we use technology and the place it will take, but that technology doesn't change, so it doesn't evolve beyond video.
Yeah, it's more of an alternate universe sci-fi rather than a we're gonna predict the future sci-fi, which I tend to prefer, because that's what Possessed did as well. It was, made in 2019, but it was supposed to be a 2019 alternate universe rather than any sort of near future predictions. Which, as I said, I think I prefer those type of sci-fi films because they tend to age better.
I may actually have to counter signal there a little bit, because I do find it's so cliche to be like, this is the movie of our time, but the first time I saw Videodrome was really before cell phones had even taken off. It was in the early 2000s, and I think at the time I thought it was kind of trippy and psychedelic, but I don't think I really had the intellectual capacity to know what to make of it. But having sort of rewatched it, I guess post digital revolution, it's interesting because while the imagery and the symbolism is all rooted in it's actually Betamax that they use in the movie, but the cassette, they sort of view this cassette as the ultimate, like, what is this disruptive media force that's going to sort of undo the sort of standard kind of corporate broadcasting that the world had been under the sway of at that point. It feels, and here goes my cliche, but it just feels like a movie about the era of the internet, of hyper modernity. I think it did. It's a much smarter movie than movies that came later, like The Matrix, when dealing with I think a lot of the same questions. So I do. I mean, having rewatched it now in the almost 2 decades later, it's not surprising to me that I made less of it back 20 years ago than I do today.
That's really interesting, actually. The fact that you have like such a long time period between when you first watched it and when you watched it again, because the way technology is advanced in that time frame has just gone leaps and bounds. Because again, like, this was my first time watching it, and I'm thinking a lot of it's quite poignant about how a lot of it sort of connects to the technology that we have nowadays. But I suppose, like yourself, if I was watching this like 20, maybe even 10 years ago, the way that I would view this film would probably be different, because where this film was when it was made in 1983, or where it was trying to say it was in 1983, we hadn't yet reached that point like 10, 15 years ago. the way that, I mean, especially if you look at the last couple of years, about how everyone has essentially had to sit in front of a PC screen. If the way that meetings have changed, the way that schools have had to go online, and a lot of I use my kids as an example. During the things like the lockdowns, a lot of the classroom sessions were online, so you were only seeing your teachers through a screen, and for me, this is what this film was. It was essentially saying that everything eventually is going to become effectively like a form of online, but through like the older sort of technology, like. And I think it resonates more nowadays, because what they're trying to use in this film, even though we use different technology, it seems to connect better. Like, yeah, this film's dated, don't get me wrong, because of the technology they use, but the messaging behind it seems more relevant today than 1983, 1993, 2003, possibly even 2013.
Yeah, and I guess in one sense, it's I guess I'm grateful aesthetically that it misattributes the I guess the revolutionary technological potential to the videotape, because I think it's the internet is much more complicated to, I think, play with if you're a body horror film director, whereas we have the sort of the vaginal imagery of Max Wren's, cavernous chest as sort of the thing that receives the video. So there's still this sort of physicality to the VHS tape that I think lends itself to. It allows Cronenberg to kind of play with the horror of it, but I mean today there's not really that same physical. The internet is not an object per se.
That's it. Yeah.
So just an idea there. Would you say that the very nature of the fact they're using Betamax and tape kind of sharpens the satire? Because it's just, I don't think it would hit as hard seeing it done digitally versus a sort of absurdity of his assistant recording a message for him and then dropping him a videotape to play, versus, say, ringing him up and leaving a message. I think the recording of a tape just to drop round.
I think in a way, yeah, but I think it's trying to sort of symbolise in a way about, in a funny way, how the old technology, like your telephones, for example, would be made obsolete by this newer technology, i.e. the Betamax. I mean, the impression I was left with Brian Oblivion, who I'm sure we'll talk about later, is I think he was like the first vlog poster. Perhaps he would have been better suited if he had a YouTube account, for example. I mean, his life was essentially spent online. He essentially was immortalized through his media, very much like, providing if nothing happens to YouTube in the next sort of century or two, or nothing happens to these accounts, what we're saying right now essentially is going to be immortalized on the internet in very much the same way that Brian Oblivion was. So I think he was quite ahead of the curve in that regard. But yeah, I think it's just for him, he noticed that the way that we were communicating was changing, and he saw the video, the cassette, as that medium of communication moving forward. And for other people, like Max Wren, for example, he essentially was like the terminally online person, always looking for that new piece of content, and he would rely on that mode of technology to essentially communicate and be communicated to, if that makes sense. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but yeah.
No, you're fine. It does work, and as you say, the comparison to your YouTube channel is very apt. Brian says the line, the monologue is his. No, sorry, it's his daughter says The monologue is his preferred method of communication, and there's something really solid there about the idea that this communication is inherently one way.
I'll tell you what did it for me. I'll tell you what did it for me. What made me draw that connection is when she turned around and said that he'd make like 4 videos a day, and I just instantly thought of Jeremy from The Quartering, and I was like, oh my god, this guy's a YouTuber.
Yeah, I mean, it's way further in the film, but she said, oh, you know, he found that his private, physical, or I think she said like flash life wasn't worth living, but his public recorded one was.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought of myself, I'm like, wow, I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
which I hate myself for thinking.
I'd love to hear from... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, but I just wanted to say, because last things you sort of like you mentioned it about your mental capacity 20 years ago perhaps not being as it is now. Dude, I don't think that's the case. I just think, you know, the technology we had was perhaps didn't allow us to sort of see the film as we do now.
It's gained in the context, and I'd really like to hear last things on this, because I think the thread Haryan picked up on there is probably the more apt one. I mean, for me it's showing kind of understanding, maybe, or maybe it's just a coincidence of the idea that Brian would almost resemble a vlogger. But I think the key takeaway from Brian is his idea that the video image, or later the digital image, is more real than the flesh, and that's the key sort of challenging principle.
Yeah, I think. Well, a couple of things, and I don't think this negates anything that's been said, but I think there are two thinkers that Cronenberg was obviously very interested in when he was making this. One of whom is Baudrillard. There's a bit of a nod to Baudrillard with the Spectacular Optical Corporation, the Spectacle. Simulacra and simulation is stuff that kind of occurs throughout the film. At some point on my eternal list of videos I want to do, I want to just do something that's just on trying to explain Baudrillard through Videodrome. But the other thinker is another Canadian like Cronenberg, which was Marshall McLuhan. And I think there's a bit of a nod. There's a bit of a alliteration with Oblivion, you know, Oblivion and McLuhan. And he is a bit of a McLuhan figure. So he's sort of the media theorist that's offering all of these monologues and talking about the potentiality of the technology. I think that and I think you're absolutely right, Chloe, that it's I think something else that the what Cronenberg allows to do, accomplishes as a director, and what this movie accomplishes is the fact that it's focused and sort of misallocates a lot of things to a videotape, is that it does away with this sort of this mind-body dualism that I think all of us living today engage in, where we have this idea where, you know, well, the computer screen, the internet, this is all just stuff that I consume with my mind. It's something that happens to my mind. It's not something that happens directly to my body. And the fact that we have the sort of the physical VHS tape is something that I think does away with this ability that the internet era has of separating these two things between, you know, the mind and the body, because it's not simply the fact that you connect merely to technology with your mind. You know, this stuff does have there's no clear delineation between when you're interacting with the internet with just your mind and the body. And that's something that what Videodrome sort of has the opposite effect of something like The Matrix, where you're not plugging in and out of the Matrix, and there's this clear line between what's occurring to the body and what's occurring to the mind. That sort of that dualism just gets completely railroaded in this film.
That is fantastic, and you're so true. I mean, there's a really strong thread of that, of rejecting dualism in Possessor. So obviously it's not Cronenberg, it's his son, Brandon Cronenberg, but the rejection
runs in the family.
Yeah, it's clearly in here as well. I really want you to make this video because I mean, you'll know that this is, in many ways, you can interpret it in, as far as my understanding of Baudrillard is, this gets Baudrillard. There is a bit that I think is kind of, it's got Desert of the Real vibes, but understanding it. Whereas there is a deep, like, there just needs to be a good video on the Matrix's failure to get Baudrillard.
Right, yes.
And the misunderstanding of it, as well as like tying in the internal contradictions of the Matrix, which is just the temptation to derail and talk about that is immense. But do you know the quote from I saw Baudrillard saying that The Matrix is a film the Matrix would make about the Matrix.
That's pretty good.
But bless him, yeah. He was offered money to be a consultant on the sequels, and he said no. Just,
wow,
I'm not going near that. Well, he didn't say I'm not going near that. He he probably was a bit more respectable than that. But
I'd love to hear what he would have to say about Videodrome. You know, another thing I would add to that while we're on the subject of Baudrillard, I forget who said it earlier, but I think somebody commented on having viewed this and feeling as though they didn't quite get it, and I imagine, I think where 99% of the people start to feel like they've gotten lost is after Max Renn sort of, you meet all of these different sort of clandestine organizations that are attempting to manipulate Renn, or they're in competition with one another. These sort of, it sounds very, it's hard to know what a what is a schizophrenic hallucination and what is real. And that's when a lot of people that are I know I did this when I watched it when I was younger. You start going through and actually trying to just sort of trace the politics like you would a season of Game of Thrones, and say like, oh, okay, no, well, these guys are this organization, this is their goal, that they did this, they did that, this, that, and the other thing. But I think the point is, in fact, your confusion. The point that this movie is trying to make is to illustrate the death of politics, or the death of the real. So there is no straight line through any of that. I think the point is, and again, I think this is what makes it just be the perfect film for our day and age, is who knows. The idea of there being any kind of objective or perfect or concrete or accurate information is just is out the window. That's never coming back. I mean, you can think of pretty much any news item of since 2016, but to think about my own country for a minute, the DC riots, things of that nature, how truly dangerous the quote unquote insurrection was in the United States. That's just one example of the idea of there being any kind of objective truth to that doesn't exist. Your perspective on a circumstance like that is going to have to do with, your what you consider to be a reliable source, your own sort of political ideology, who's controlling the media and what you've been exposed to on a given day. So much like our nerve endings are just completely fried, and our circuitry cannot really process the degree of information and counter information that we receive on a daily basis, which results in sort of this inability for any kind of concrete politics. That is what we're kind of witnessing with Max Renn there. There's no you could rewatch this movie 10 times. You're not going to, I think, piece together what political political body is responsible for what, because the point is really just the overload of information and the deterioration of any kind of concrete reality or concrete motive or plot. It's just like us today. It's basically, you could consider it like Max Wren just being overwhelmed by his Twitter feed, and he doesn't know, what is happening at this point. So I've spoken for too long, but I wanted to put a pin in that because I know that somebody had mentioned just feeling completely perplexed at how psychotic the film gets, and there's no unspooling that yarn. That's very much, I think, the point.
Yeah, many films that I absolutely love do, for various different purposes, engage in deliberately disorientating you. So obviously, The Father, Memento. We are going to cover David Lynch's Mulholland Drive, which does that. But the thread that tends to connect them is the idea of really building the empathy with the character. But it will work in, as you've referenced, in the Baudrillard terms of giving you the broadcast of the hyperreal to justify the real, or make it clear that the real cannot be distinguished, and therefore you will not know what's going on. This is why this film gets Baudrillard in a way that the Wachowskis never did. But in terms of let's say something we should address early, because probably the film thinks we should address it early, is the question of what the heck Videodrome is. And
I mean, we could probably get into plot. We spent half an hour on the themes there, which, to be fair, with this film, the themes are probably the strongest part because they are so interesting.
They do have this bit of, I mean, let's talk story after this. I just wanted to bring out this very early bit of introspective self-criticism. They have the scene of, oh my gosh, why do I do this for every film? What is anyone's name? Harlan. There we go.
Yeah, Harlan. Yeah, Max.
I love this
Max
guy.
Is Harlan here.
Yeah, Peter Dvorsky as Harlan, and Max James Woods. Just bless him. This film would be easy to lose if you didn't have a good actor holding it together. And it does help that he's a recognizable face, so you're able to relate to it a little bit longer. But they do have this brilliant scene where they are looking at it for the first time, and it has this reputation of it's basically come out of nowhere. You're not sure where it's come from, and what the heck is this stuff? There's no plot. It's just violence and torture. This is how they describe it, and it's sort of it's the obvious criticism that people would label at Videodrome, because this film goes to some weird, disgusting places.
Yeah. Which I find a bit of a weird criticism. It definitely has a plot, more so than in-universe Videodrome does. I mean, the funniest part I found here was when they're like, "Oh, that black wall is clay, right?" Yeah, I think it's electrified. I don't know how they electrified clay, but
I love that line. I was wondering about that so much. I was like, the clay is something you can mold. That's about impressionability. Like we can be molded by watching it, and then they throw in it's electrified.
I was like,
inspiring.
I was like, no, it isn't, because she doesn't look like she's being electrocuted as well.
Yeah. But
this scene is weird.
I'm sorry. The scene is clearly here to show you, like, yeah, this film's extreme. This film's disturbing, but it is not Videodrome, or Videodrome is not the show Videodrome. They clearly show you something that is extreme, pure torture, pure sadism, to distinguish. It's basically the 18-rated version of what The Simpsons does with Itchy and Scratchy, and South Park does with Terrence and Phillip.
But they've got plots.
Yes, the whole point is embodying the criticisms and show, no, this is what you're accusing me of. I am not that. But shall we take apart the story for a bit then, and walk through it? And...
I mean, yeah, I can pretty much. The story's not too important up to this point because it's mostly just establishing that Max is he CEO or director of this Civic TV?
He's a partner. He's a partner.
Yeah.
But you get his motivation very quickly.
Yeah, he is part owner of this Civic TV, and what they basically do, which you find out before or after this scene, can't remember. But basic. Yeah, I'm thinking of the. Oh, so the panel shows after this. Yeah.
Yeah, the panel shows after.
So yeah, basically he runs this Civic TV, which their tagline is the one you bring to bed with you. Which
I should have the logo because the logo is absolutely disgusting. And
it's the fat guy with the pizza on it.
I'm gonna try and get it up, guys. Sorry.
Do you know, whenever I heard that bit, all I could think of was do 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 do.
Yeah, it's literally Mr. Plinkett.
Yeah.
It is. All right, where is it? I've got to get footage of it.
Yeah, so it's basically this is a small scale TV broadcaster who it is like Live Leak but for TV. They try and show you porn, they try and show you violence. It's the worst of the worst when it comes to your culture, in essence, which is the point. But they are quite small, and it's like, look, we found this niche, as he explains in the panel. It's a niche. People want this. Can you really blame us for economics? Which I would say, no, not really.
I love that he makes the economic argument.
Yeah, it's straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Whereas he's got this, like the woman next to him is what is she, like some radio host who, a bit like Frasier, she's supposed to help people, and she's like, oh, we're in an overstimulated society and all this, and Max says back, well, you're wearing this dress, like you're one to talk, and she's like, yeah, I'm doing the bad thing, you're right. He's just like, I'll take you out to dinner.
Yeah, I love that bit when he's like, listen, I'd really like to take you out to dinner. I swear that bit was ad-libbed.
It feels like it.
After Vampires, I can believe it.
Yeah.
He's just on. James Woods was just on a roll. Sorry, folks. There you go. There is the Civic TV logo. I just wanted to indicate how
that's
this
not
is
his
what
knee.
They do not. Oh, Luminec. This is a family-friendly stream, guys. But yeah, this is what they think of their consumers, or the satirical version of the consumer.
This is the future, the globalist one.
It is. He is in the pod. He eats the bugs.
Literal. Look at the bear's face as well.
Seriously.
I love as well.
This panel show up. I love it.
I love as well as this is supposed to be overweight in the 70s, in the 80s even. Like he's supposed to be overweight, and he looks pretty skinny for these days.
I find the more depressing example is in the two different versions of Lord of the Flies, or the TV It versus the current It. In what the standards for that are. But yeah, here's the show. I love this bit.
Rena King was a stand-in for Mary Whitehouse. Changed my mind.
The woman in red.
Look at what it says in the background. Just look at what it says in the background, for example.
Television and social responsibility.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, she's moralizing.
I think that's the name of the episode. It says tonight, television and social responsibility. So it's clearly a debate.
Yeah, but they're discussing it, and she seems quite.
Well, she's just the host. I don't know if we can necessarily.
Well, I mean,
say that.
to be fair, Mary Whitehouse wouldn't be the host, would she? She would be the guest. I think.
Yeah, she would be the outsider.
Yeah. I mean,
this is the person. This is Rena King's version of the controversy. Like her role in this system is to feed off the reaction to what Max Wren puts out. Like she needs him, whereas Mary Whitehouse would shut it down. Yeah. Gosh, I miss Mary.
Would Mary Whitehouse even come on a panel show, or would she just go, no, he's wrong?
No, she absolutely would.
She used to do it all the time.
I don't know. She's before my time, so
Sorry, I'll just ask last things. Are we massively confusing you by referring to Mary Whitehouse? And
No,
if so, I
I
apologize.
I know who
I'm
Mary-
not. I
Oh,
mean,
sorry.
I'm making inferences, but I couldn't put my finger on her.
Apologies. So
She wouldn't let you put
was,
a finger on you, mate. She's very, very
bless her,
prudish.
she was a very traditional woman in Britain. She got started. She was basically very put off and concerned by what was happening on TV and the dropping of standards. And basically, as the BBC sort of allowed far more extreme things on the show, she started writing, and she started effectively just a grassroots campaign and a genuine grassroots campaign to clean up TV. I think her campaign was clean up the airwaves. I might be wrong, but just classic English old lady wrote letter writing campaign. She had a bee in her bonnet, as we say.
Yeah, that's more or less what I was inferring.
Would your equivalent be moral majority? An organization like that?
I think that would work. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, she wasn't taken serious. Well, she got some results, but effectively the system then started to use her as she's kind of there as a figure of fun and a bit of a sparring bag.
Well, speaking of,
she provided controversy really, but they didn't have to really do anything that she asked, unfortunately. Sorry.
Got it. Well, speaking of being used by the system, I just wanted to, I guess, mention and bring up. There's one aspect of that I love about Videodrome that does not really necessarily have anything to do with with technology or its insights into technology or the visual effects. Just the figure of Max Wren, I find to be the best. How to put this? Just the best smackdown own of libertarianism, maybe in a movie. he's the ultimate libertarian anti-hero. His character is just is libertarian in a nutshell, and is purely you've already mentioned him being purely profit driven, but he is this sort of maybe homo economicus is a way to describe him if he has a philosophy. Although later on there's the character who's trying to warn him away from Videodrome, and she says to him, Max, this thing has something you don't. And he says, well, what's that? And she says, a philosophy. But he is sort of, he starts off the movie having this kind of absolute confidence in his own sort of utilitarianism, or this. I was
going to say about the utilitarian aspect of it, because he does make the argument for harm reduction, doesn't he? Through
he absolutely
media.
does.
Yeah.
His first shot is economics, and then his second shot is actually, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, but by the end of the film, he is literally just this puppet, right? Because he does not really understand that, the forces that he's playing with. He's got this sort of laissez-faire. The market will work it out attitude, and I just think it seems to me very intentional that Cronenberg is just putting that ideology on trial throughout the movie in the figure of Max Wren, and just how he gets completely subsumed by his own sort of naivete.
Yeah, there's something I really like in his characterization, which, as you say, he gets subsumed. There's lots of cases where he's, how can I say, he gets involved in these sort of scandalous bits of behavior, but then he meets a limit. And oh gosh, I never remember any character name. Her name is Nikki Brand. We'll have to talk about how the fact that every single name in this is deliberately messing with you and not meant to be a real name. But Nikki
Well, it's
represents this,
Cronenberg, isn't it?
yeah. Nikki Brand represents this kind of hard edge that he meets and challenges him. And as you say, he has a response to her. He has concerns, but she does end up taking him much further into a quite a dark place.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is probably. I'd be surprised if this wasn't a thing in the 80s. But you know, when you have like the most anti-porn politicians and all this, and then it turns out they're like partaking in the most hardcore gay acts you can think of. That felt like Nikki here. It's like she was very much against showing civic TV, and then it turns out she's like, yeah, please cut my shoulder, just a little bit.
I'm pretty sure
did you see her
of
job? Did you see her what her
Yeah.
job was?
Well, her job's she's basically Frasier, isn't she? Just helping people on the radio.
You just killed any eroticism in this movie.
I was going to say, if only Frasier was
welcome.
that easy on the eye.
Oh dear.
There are a lot of sexual themes in Frasier, I'll have you know.
Yeah, but I don't really want Frasier being the central sexual theme of them.
Well, you must be homophobic.
I must be. Clip that. Don't clip that, I mean.
Yeah. Well, so if people haven't seen it and they are happy being spoiled, the minor details that Nikki, played by Debbie Harry, in the wonderful red dress there, she is a radio host and she is doing some kind of counselling. She's professing. She's taking these sort of agony aunt calls and hearing people in great distress and telling them to, call the crisis line and get therapy. And I think your politician comparison here is quite apt. Is you then see in her personal life, ooh, woo.
She is effed up. Okay, so obviously I've only seen this once. I didn't realise that the woman in red hair I didn't realise that was Nikki, because it seemed like this was Max's first time seeing her, which I assume it was. And then it felt like, because straight after this, it is the scene with the radio show. And I was like, whoa, okay, their relationship's taken off really well then.
Yeah.
Looking back on this, because I thought they were two different characters, but apparently they're the same. So
yeah, Margot, I think Brand. It's definitely the fact that she is a brand. She is a public persona. She is a consumable image. But I think Brand is also going to be like branding. The fact that she is into permanent pain, she is taking cuts and scars. So the idea that she is being branded in a way is also part of that. There's a lot in the names, and Cronenberg wants you to notice. I mean, it's a bit more subtle than, Billy Convex? Gosh darn it, what's his name?
Yeah, Convex, Convex.
Barry Convex.
Barry Convex.
It sounds like I wanted him to do was it Sillet Bang adverts? That's why I get confused.
I mean, I'm not being funny, but one of the characters in this is called Brian Oblivion. Like, come on.
It's my favourite name. It's my favourite one.
Because we've kind of skipped over him at this point, because he's...
yes.
I mean, it's implied that he's coming over via live feed in this.
Oh, yeah.
And all he really has to say is, TV is the mind's eye, it's the retina of the soul, and things like this. And I was like, man, this looks really pre-recorded to me. Which at first I thought people don't really get live feeds in the 80s, I guess. So this is the best they can do. But
can I point out also that I just want to make... I won't do this every... I am going to do this every time, let's be honest. When we first see the studio here, we focus on Max Wren, we pan across, and we kind of see Nikki, but the next thing that interrupts our vision is the camera screen that's focusing on her. So we once again in this, we're first introduced to Nikki via her televised image. And they do this over and over. They do it for Barry Convex as well.
That's right.
It's relentless. The real impression is the televised one, the artificial one. But yes, what Brian says here, very important. I actually put up a quote from it last night because it absolutely struck me. And it is, Yeah, it's Brian saying, of course, Oblivion is not the name I was born with. It's my television name. And soon all of us will have special names.
Oh my
Names
God, yeah.
designed to resonate. Isn't that interesting?
Doesn't
Last
that
things,
just-
Haryan Gláeddyv and that
doesn't-
crime guy.
Doesn't that
I
just
thought-
stake you through the heart? Doesn't that make you hate yourself?
I know, right? I thought exactly the same thing when I heard that. And I'm like, hold on a minute. Hold on.
Dabbed on by Brian Oblivion.
I know. Also, and I thought I was going to get my own back when he turned around and he said, "You won't see me on a television." I was like, ah. He was like, "Except when I'm on a television." Ah.
Yeah, which
What
is
do you
really
make
ironic.
of that?
Yeah.
You can't skip over that
And-
line.
And again, this is what I was sort of saying earlier. You know, if you watch this film like 20 years ago, that line would just go over your head, unless you think, unless you sort of refer to sort of like stage names, you know. But I mean, again, in this day and age, it rings even more true. You know, here are us, 4 anons on the internet. You know, these aren't our birth names, and I'm thinking, my God, man, that when he said that, it really hit home.
Yeah,
he was
it's-
working with the stars. He knew. I think he's seeing the increasing access of the public to the TV and the idea of having a TV persona, and then it's sort of natural to think, well, actually, maybe apply a bit of the old Andy Warhol that we'll all have 15 minutes of fame, and think that, well, eventually everyone's going to have this artificial image that's going to be the easiest way to interact.
What's
That
15
may have
minutes
not
of-
made sense.
What's 15?
ramble.
No, not at all.
You
No,
did to
perfectly. Yeah.
us, at the very least.
I mean, what is 15 minutes of fame nowadays? It's a viral tweet. It's a viral video. It's a viral, whatever. But yeah, it's that's what 15 minutes of fame is nowadays. Yeah.
No,
I didn't even mention that Andy Warhol was on our naughty list, our video nasties list.
Oh.
I could have gone on, like, there's 70 films on there I could have mentioned, but yes, I'm sorry, Mr. D. Flesh for Frankenstein, Andy Warhol's video. I think Snuff from him is also on the banned list. In fact, it is, yes. Sorry, minor diversion.
Everybody, I'm so sorry to have to duck out, but I've got to I'm in a different time zone. I got to go feed my kids dinner, but I'll be listening to the rest of this conversation in the morning, and it was a pleasure to be on here with you all. So, and I look forward to coming on again soon.
You'll be super welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And I think I need to read up on Marshall McLuhan. I don't actually know him. Yeah, that's why I went so heavy on the Baudrillard.
Yeah. Well, that's
no.
better the Baudrillard than the McLuhan, but
Okay.
I haven't read him in quite a while either. But
No,
all right,
much
well,
appreciated. Real life does this. Don't worry. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Last Things. And everyone,
Right,
go
everybody.
subscribe to Last Things. He's amazing.
take care. Have a good one.
Night,
Catch you later,
Good
man.
to meet you, man.
All right. Okay. All right.
Now he's gone, I can tell him he's wrong. This is a terrible Cronenberg film.
No.
Hello, future Last Things. You were wrong. No, I'm joking. Oh God, where were we up to?
We were talking about what Brian. I mean, as we're doing the plot analysis basically, but I can't skip over. I can't skip over Oblivion here, and his
Yeah, no.
analysis that eventually the short of it is we are going to get more used to digital consumption or non-real consumption, and that's going to be real life, which
Yeah,
Nailed it.
that's what he says here. What he says later, I think, is a lot more interesting and recontextualizes it.
yeah,
Which
but
I don't want to get to yet.
It does work with a thing of I won't go on Baudrillard again, but there's a lot in there about that. About how you find that you get used to the presentation of a thing. So a relationship or sex via film, via literature. And then it's almost like the real life thing with your physical body, your actual relationship in the day-to-day, or your actual physical intimacy does not compare to that. It does not resemble that. And I'm just using sort of very visceral examples of that. And so you will get your first impressions defined by this, in our age, digital representation of the thing. And then when you actually have it, you're sort of like, oh,
yeah,
no, this isn't as good.
Well, now that you mention it, people are very surprised when they find out I'm exactly the same in real life as I am on YouTube and on Twitter.
You're
Like,
taller than I thought.
Am I? I'm exactly the height I told you I was.
Yeah, but I didn't believe you. I thought it was.
Well,
I thought
exactly.
it was the internet.
Well, exactly.
Internet.
And you were surprised. Like, this is what amazes me. People lie on the internet, but as Oblivion says later, the internet's hyper reality. It's more real than reality, which is so strange. Because obviously everyone lies on the internet, including me, which is strange.
I mean, he's talking about TV, but effectively, he's
again
the digital universe.
Yeah,
again,
it's preempting Paris syndrome for everyone. If people don't know Paris syndrome, it's the thing of particularly, I gather, in East Asian countries, Paris is represented as this most beautiful romantic city. You build it up, you get there, and you see like Paris is a place in France. Oof. Take that, Paris. And it doesn't live up, but it makes everywhere into a target for Paris syndrome. Sorry, I talked over you there, TCG.
No,
it's fine. It's fine. No, I was just going to say, like, I mean, with regards to the messaging, it's just a case of, replace the technology that they're using to show that message with what we have today. Maybe they didn't anticipate that we would be technologically where we are now, but you know that if you replaced what they're doing now with not so much a live feed, but like someone just quickly went to one of these little private, hundreds of privated videos on YouTube and just broadcasted that and put that together and just sort of spliced it all and had it timed in those moments. It would resonate more, which is why I think it kind of worries me about how this film would be portrayed in another, perceived in another 20 years, as to whether there's anything else on there that actually we're probably missing now, but in 20 years' time we'll be like, oh my god, how did we not see it?
Yeah,
I feel like if I watched this film 20 years ago, I'd probably be giving it a lower rating than what I would.
I feel this film needs a desperate remake, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
It's desperately begging for one.
Well, I felt like this film was aiming for a sequel.
I'm torn on that. But I have my issues with how it ends.
I mean, it wasn't as in your face as the Mortal Kombat remake that they did last year, which was literally like a 90-minute advert for a sequel.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to take it away from talking about online personas because I think it gets really interesting later when we get back to Oblivion.
So let's move on. Go ahead.
Yeah, because we then get to what is her name?
Nikki,
yeah. Yeah, Nikki. She sorry, my dad. Sorry, my dad distracted me. Yes,
talking about Nikki, absolute filth.
Yeah, Nikki and Max. I mean, again, from how they were talking in this scene, it felt like they were in a relationship for at least a few months, at the very least. But no, this is apparently like day 2 or day 1 even. Who knows?
Sorry, I've just got to interrupt you here. Yes, Bilbo, we are calling the slit in his stomach a stomussy. That's what we're calling it, and there's no way around. Also, I've just seen this. Wisdom Twins books. That's awesome.
There you go.
That's awesome. The stream's going to go on a little longer. Can you like DM me on Twitter or something? I would love to read more about that. Yeah, DM me on Twitter, man. I want to read that.
Oh, he's got a second one.
Oh, hello. I'm just going to get that up so that's on the stream, but I want to read this. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is what gets me, because just spoiler alert. The plot in this, it's not great. It's probably I'm not sure whether I'm giving it a 6 or below at the moment. But as you say, the themes in this, they're really prescient, and that's what annoys me. I wish this film was better than it is, because the theme in it is something that needs to be explored, and I don't think this film does it as well as it could.
I am going to be really interested in what your issues with. Well, if you're saying they've jumped ahead in this, I'm absolutely with you. Because I was getting the screen caps, and this scene is like 16 minutes into the movie.
Yeah,
sorry,
I mean, this
14 minutes in.
Yeah, this is why I thought Nikki was 2 different people from the interview in this. I was like, wow, they look similar. That's confusing. And it's like, oh no, they are the same person. I'm like, because it literally, just for context of this scene, so for these 2 relationship, Max meets Nikki at that panel and then asks her out to dinner then. And then next scene we see them together, he's at her studio, looks through the window, says, let's go when you're done. And she's in like this activewear stuff from the 80s, and she's like, yeah, fine. And then next scene she's like saying, oh, do you have any porno in your house? And I'm like, wow, these 2 are comfortable with each other. It turns out it's like second time they've met.
That's her thing, though. Like, this film doesn't mess around, but I do feel like it's a breakneck pace. Can I take like a minute to just absolutely stand Debbie Harry? Okay, she is an absolutely underrated scream queen. Obviously, the musical career gets the attention, but she has turned up in a bunch of horror movies and been game for some really weird stuff that has been super memorable. Like, this is a standout role. But if you watch a little obscure film called Body Bags, which was basically an attempt to salvage a movie out of a failed TV pilot, she is in the middle section of it before the Mark Hamill section. I'm trying to shill Body Bags to you guys. It's on YouTube. It's really fun. She's in that, and she's just amazing. And she's also in one of my favorite horror anthologies of all time, Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. She is part of the bridging story. She's great. Debbie Harry, huge talent for horror movies. She should be considered a scream queen. I love her. I love her.
To be fair, I need to watch more of those, more of the films that she's in. Because she actually surprised me, to be fair. Because I thought when I first heard that she was in this film, I'm thinking, oh, I'll sing her in a movie. She's probably not going to be that good. But she genuinely surprised, actually. Genuinely surprised by her performance.
I don't know who she is.
That's fine.
Is
that's
there any
fine.
point...
We're just showing our age, Harry, and that's fine.
Okay.
I'm going to ask. I know the answer, but I'm going to ask. Possibly. Do you know, Haryan, have you heard of Blondie?
Yes.
What?
Well, there you
You've
go.
heard of Blondie and you haven't heard of Destiny's... Fine.
I play Guitar Hero, not Just Dance.
Oh, there we go. I love you, Haryan. You're special. Okay, yeah. So I gather this is a very early role for her. She was quite nervous about having such a big presence, although she kind of dips out of the film quite a lot. She comes back in, but her presence is very disproportionate to the amount of screen time. You know, like Judi Dench in Shakespeare in Love. Yeah, that's right. I watch romances.
No, that's the real horror.
I am vast and I contain multitudes. But yeah, I think she's meant to be jarring in this, because I find it jarring how quickly she goes to, do you have any porno? Do you want to do some things I don't want to say on Susan's channel?
It's do you have any porno? Yes, some. And then she's like, what's this? Oh, that's Videodrome. We can watch it if you want. And it's just literally torture. And she's like, oh, that turns me on. And I'm like, wow, this is really weird. And then she's like, oh, can you cut me a little? I'm like,
oh, wow.
He's got a really screwed up girlfriend. And then as I'm finding out now, no, he's known this woman for a day and a half.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, someone's already cut you though. And I'm like, why is he not weirded out that his girlfriend's cutting herself? And then I find out here that it's a day and a half that they've known each other. And then next scene, they're on the bed naked and he's piercing her ear, basically causing her pain while they're naked, and then they bang, and then
just to confirm,
the Videodrome set. Go on.
Just to confirm, you said piercing her ear and not piercing her ear.
What?
Wisdom Twins. I'm gonna have to read this. This is
an ass joke.
This is very fascinating.
Yes.
Thank you, man. Thank you for dropping in the stream. This is awesome. I need your book, dude. I need your book. DM
Subscribe to Wisdom Twins.
Yes.
Cool.
Well, clearly do, guys. Check it out if you want to know more about Videodrome. And apparently, drop in the chat what the full topic of your book. I'm interested. It's just about the book's mainly about James Woods, yeah, but you've interviewed around. That's cool, man. So, what I wanted to ask about this is because I do find it jarring that she goes. I mean, let's see. Now I'll moderate my comment here. I find it jarring how quickly she goes to some quite dark areas. What did you guys think that was about?
Right. Okay.
As I said before, politician, porn bad in real life. You know, shags 10 men a night. that didn't go really beyond that.
I think it's probably a combination of two things. One, time constraints of the film, and also trying to think of how to word this, to give you a clear sort of sense of the professional character, the brand, and the real person behind the brand.
Oh, damn, that's in there as well. That is in there. I was thinking, like, on top of all of that, which is definitely there, it is he puts the stuff out, right? And Max Wren puts the extreme material out, but she kind of is the extreme material. Like, she's really shaped by the product. Yeah.
Which
it's
is
this challenge to libertarianism. Like, well, it's in there. It's the challenge of libertarianism of, like, you can probably handle your morals, but you'll be in. What are you going to do about other people who cannot moderate?
I'd say
the issue for libertarianism.
Well, he does challenge his own libertarianism, because he tries to moderate her when she's like, "Oh, I'm going to go to Pittsburgh on an assignment. Oh, Videodrome's out there."
So,
that's fine. And he's like, "No, don't go near it."
Yeah, I guess because I call myself a libertarian, I'm taking it badly, but you're probably right. But she is basically a mirror to his own morals, or lack of morals.
That is a fantastic framing of it. That is fantastic framing.
Yeah. Because, as you say, it's kind of, he's seeing what his morals are doing, and she wants more and more and more, till she wants to go on Videodrome to basically be killed, and he's like, "No, you're not allowed, you're a woman." He doesn't say that, but just he realizes that maybe I do need a better limit on not necessarily what I'm showing, but he definitely disassociates himself from what's going on there. It's just this is just TV for other people, but he needs to then get to the point of, if this was happening to someone I know, that's bad. And I don't like just calling that libertarianism, but I mean, call it that. I guess it's probably not wrong.
Well, it's the classic, every ideology has its weak points, and you have to own it, basically. There's this moment that I really liked when she talks about going to Pittsburgh, and he's like, no, you can't take it, and she's, well, I'm going to burn myself with a cigarette.
And then he's like, no, don't do it.
And she's kind of like challenging him, and then she hands him the cigarette, and he has this moment where he looks at it, and then he looks at her, and it doesn't show you what happens. Like, does he then go and use it on her? You are questioning at this point what he does.
It's just a waste of a good cigarette, if you ask me. What got me as well is this seems quite interesting, because up until now he doesn't really know anything about Videodrome, does he? He doesn't know like the nature of it, the authenticity of it. You know, he's still very much in the camp of, this is really interesting, low quality, sort of low production costs, and like genuine intrigue as to how they get it done. But then as soon as she mentions that she's going to audition for it, all of a sudden it's like this realization sort of kicks in that, hold on, there's a possibility this might be real. And then he sort of very much is like, stay away from it.
Yeah.
It's just interesting because, like I say, up until that moment, he was convinced that this was just a fake sort of technique.
Yeah, I do. I find it kind of jarring for his character, if I'm honest. He doesn't seem to care about anyone, and then all of a sudden he cares about this woman that he's known for a day and a half. I'm just kind of like, okay.
I think because she does test him, but I can see what you mean. You also see how the classic, the obvious theme of Videodrome invades the real life. I'm hoping Susan is okay with that.
You've blurred enough out, I think. There's a bit of electrified clay in the background, but I think she can overlook that.
I'll be honest. There are so many shots in this movie that I think are just beautiful, and I absolutely love. And this is one of them. I think it's stunning. The other one was the one I just showed. I think it looks so beautiful. Where are we?
Yeah. The cigarette one?
This one. No, this one. I just think it's gorgeous. It's gorgeously lit. There's kind of the chaos in the background we had established, but you know where your attention has to be. And I think the DP on this did an amazing job. I'll just have a look who did the photography on it.
I'm glad you said. I'm glad you confirmed what you meant by DP.
Apologies.
Given that we've been saying
the channel, I don't think. Okay, it's Mark Irwin. Mark Irwin is the DP.
Mark Irwin, your DP is amazing. Proper Horror Show 2022.
Well, hey, oh my gosh, guys. This guy's amazing. How have I never looked him up before? Okay. Scanners. The Dead Zone, which by the way it's a much more enjoyable Cronenberg. It's not as deep. And also The Fly, which we are reviewing very soon. It's the same guy.
Okay, Mark Irwin, your DP is amazing. Teabag 2022.
Legend.
I can take or leave your DP.
Hang on. John Gorris has got a good take on this. Yes.
Yes, that's a good point, actually.
She has turned herself into an object. Yes. She's saying, I'm an object to be used. And he's like, whoa. Hold on there, Smokey.
He's like, hold on. Do you know objectifying women is bad?
Well, that's the thing. If you started treating her as an object, she'd probably be like, I'm a person. At least she was a feminist, which I don't think she actually is. I was just trying to get that criticism in really clunkily.
No one noticed it, don't worry. Stealthy.
Okay,
she says, she says that she's going to Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And that's kind of a good spur, like, for him to say, it's an additional spur. Like, he kind of had enough already because he's wanting to track this channel. He thinks it's the thing he needs, but he's also, it's not just for the success of his channel. I think he's also intrigued. And we also find out that Videodrome is having a physiological effect on him. And he now has Nikki to consider. But he starts looking into it, and he then goes and speaks to his contact, Masha, to try and get some insight on what Videodrome might be.
Yeah. Just, right, you know at the start of this scene with the I don't know, hip dancer, I guess you'd call her?
Yes.
She was really... She was
belly dancer.
Yeah. she was really crap at actually belly dancing until the camera actually focused on her, because she's just kind of walking down the stairs with the little clappers in her hands. And I'm like, wow, this sucks. And then it focused on her, and I'm like, oh, she can do it. Why wasn't she doing it down the stairs?
She just noticed the camera was looking at her like, oh, crap, yeah, okay, here we go.
Yeah, it's totally inconsequential to the plot, but it really jarred me. I'm like, oh, this is a belly dancer. Oh, no, she's just walking. Wow, they hired a really crap one. Oh, no, she actually can do it. What the hell? But yeah, no. And we have the scene before where she's like, oh, here's my take on the Greek gods having an orgy. And he's like, wow, it's really gay, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we've got a thing called Videodrome, look into that. And that's when she's come back after looking into it.
I got precisely one screen cap from that scene, and it's this guy.
Oh, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for showing this image.
I love this guy.
I need context. Why have we got this?
Right, so what happens is...
The respectable waiter, Darren Brown. I love him.
Oh, no. Did you...
I love him. He's so good.
Oh, my... This for me is when I thought the film was a trans allegory. No, so for context, so this Masha's talking to Max about Videodrome, and he wants to get in on the inside and try and meet the people involved with it, and he's trying to sort of butter her up because apparently she's got sources in Pittsburgh. Or that she can find out, and she's like, nah, stay away from it, it's dangerous. This is the part where she's talking about them having a philosophy, and he's and then the conversation sort of goes on a little bit, and then she's like, oh, you'll have to treat me really good, or she says something like quite suggestive, and he's like, okay, we can have a shower together, and basically like, yeah, I'll haul myself out to you, Masha. And she's like, oh, I'm sure you're beautiful, but you're a bit old for my liking. And then as she sort of says that, she looks up at the waiter, and then you see this. She prefers that.
Twinks. I think there's a twinky vibe. There's a wonderful effeteness. Like it's a weird moment. Like this is about 2 seconds. It's
weird.
Even 2 seconds, but there is a point to it. Like this isn't random. It's not random that they're in a Greek restaurant and they're seeing a younger, effete male who is to be dominated. Yeah,
no, definitely. I'm so glad you caught this screenshot, because I was like, we have to talk about this bit.
It's one of those like random guys that you're just like, no.
Like I was genuinely expecting.
He's so good.
I was genuinely expecting some sort of like young muscular beefcake to be sort of stood there like, like you saw this guy and I'm like, really
it is that funny moment, but yes, it also works. It's we've just had the time with Nikki showing that you don't Max can broadcast his I'm just going to say sort of subversive degenerate content for economic reasons, of course, guys. But then he sees Nikki, who is influenced by it. But this is just following up on that. This is showing a kind of inversion.
Fem Weinstein.
Oh, gee. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I'm sorry. You're still on about this Darren Brown person? Who is
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We're
I don't know
talking
who he
about Darren
is.
Brown.
Oh my god, you don't know who Darren Brown is?
No. Okay, well, let's not explain Darren Brown. The point is, we followed Nikki being a sort of example of a subverted person to this scene where you have the sort of the female who's going to be dominant over the young, effete male. It's showing again that this is reaching the real world. Unless I'm massively overreading this and this is like a random extra who is very metropolitan. But I don't
know. I mean, all I could tell you is that it just completely threw. It just panned to him.
Sorry. Oh, is this the magician?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, is this actually a magician though?
No.
No.
It just looks like him, right? Okay, that's
Although
really confused.
I didn't get it initially when you said Darren Brown, but I'm kind of seeing it now. It's obviously that mop up on top of his head is.
Yeah, he looks like he's got a wig on.
Yeah.
Well,
It just.
I can tell you his pre-fame books are considerably saucier than the ones he put out once he got famous. The man has a filthy sense of humour in them.
Yeah. Sorry, Bilbo, just within the context of this scene, I was expecting a beefcake, but I don't know. You can call me D if you like. That's fine.
We are confirmed disciples here. I have tried to get John D on this stream, but to no avail. But I believe with the right movie, you can get anyone on a stream.
Absolutely.
One day. Probably The Descent was not the one to go for, unfortunately. But...
I was going to say, the EFAP lot are thinking of doing a Scream arc.
Oh my god!
If we're ever going to get them on, yeah,
they're such copycats.
I am going to shill. I'm going to shill the. Well, I was about to swear. I'm going to shill the f out of our streams on that, because especially after he read out my super chat like
I know.
2 months
later.
That
was a quality shill, even if it was 2 months later.
Yeah. But no, I'm actually interested to see what they say on it. And if they ever go through a Scream video, like if they don't get you on Proper Horror Show, I'm actually gonna go over to Wales and shoot Mauler in the head.
In Minecraft.
No.
In Minecraft.
Okay, yes, in Minecraft.
In Roblox as well.
Yeah, but he'll deserve it. So
well, you know, gosh, I don't know. I have zero chance, guys. But if you want to badger Mauler on my behalf, I'd really like to go on the Scream 4 one, because I've been kind of obsessed with it. I've been rethinking Scream 4 and thinking, I kind of think I just misunderstood it.
Scream 4 is my favourite out of the sequels, bar 5.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's really weird.
Yeah, I think the trouble was I was watching it and I was watching the film made in 2011 with a 2020 mindset, and I can't do that. I was thinking this is a film about the requels, the soft reboots, but it wasn't. This predicted reboots. And I should have been significantly more generous about it.
I think
which is odd for it.
Yeah, I think, well, let's be honest, Scream 5 or whatever you want to call it now is essentially what Scream 4 would have been. At the time. You know, essentially they were just redoing Scream 4. Scream 4 for me stood the test of time. It's definitely up there of the 5 films. It's probably improved in my view, actually, as the years have gone by. So you're not the only one in that regard. Because, you know, I mean, the box office figures showed when that one came out, it didn't do too well in comparison to the other ones. But, I mean, I think it should have done better.
Yeah, it has issues. I mean, it has the issues that the soft reboots have. But the main thing is it was predicting them.
And it has Rory Culkin.
Yeah.
I didn't want to sidetrack him. We've got 10 minutes before Super Nanny's going to come out.
Okay. Apologies. We'll move on. Okay.
Well, it's not a horror show stream without a Scream reference.
Exactly. We had to, and we've had two.
Yeah,
Tash has been lurking.
She has, yes. Hello, Tash. I know you, believe it or not. Yes.
I don't believe it.
Next we go to the. Yeah, because next in the plot after Masha says it's political. If you want to find out more, find Brian O'Brien. So he tracks it down to this cathode ray mission, and the inside is. I mean, I thought it was a really weird name, like cathode ray mission. I'm like, what? Do they just get them all in front of TVs? Yes, that's exactly what they do. And I was like, wow, this went really weird. So inside, Max finds what's she called, Bianca Oblivion.
Yes, Bianca Oblivion.
Which I don't know. I get the feeling Cronenberg was like, right, I need a woman's name beginning with B, and Brenda and Bertha were just terrible, so he went Spanish. And anyway, in there, Max, introduced himself, says, "Look, I'm trying to find out about Videodrome, basically." And she says, "Yeah, I think you need to look at these." What does she say? 'Cause she doesn't give him the tapes at this point, does she?
No, she refuses. She tries to get the topic from him, and then she has the tapes delivered later.
Yeah, she's like, she's not quite. I don't know anything about it. It's more of a. It's almost that you're not quite ready to learn about it properly yet.
But he demonstrates he's got some of the inside knowledge, but then we could tie ourselves in knots over how much she knows and expects him to know, how much she's pulling the strings.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we're not meant to know. We're meant to be confused and disorientated. But can we take a moment on just what the heck the cathode ray mission is? And because my gosh,
it's a mission. It's a homeless shelter. But I mean, I assume they feed the homeless and all that. But they're also all right. Here's your little pod. Go watch TV for hours on end.
Yeah.
Which honestly is probably better than being outside.
This is true. I mean, again, it was just, again, this is just them replacing the Bible with a television set, and essentially having the scripture read to you, changing the way that we communicate.
Yeah,
changing the way we transfer information.
If I'm there. Oh, sorry.
No, I say it's there in terms of like the way that we communicate is changing. It's there, but it's obviously it didn't go the way that the film predicted, but only from a technological point of view. In fact, if anything, the technology went way further than what the film anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit. I've got a screen cap that I just had to take for this because it stands out to me so much. Bloomin' heck, where is it? Okay, I've got it. I'll get it up in a second. If I was going to criticize the film, I would say like the trouble is the satire on this with the cathode ray mission is just a bit too blunt. It's too obvious.
It's not subtle, is it?
It's not subtle at all. This is absolute sledgehammer compared to the other points in the movie, but is it wrong? I don't know. They have people literally saying like, if you give people enough TV, they'll be restored into society again. And it's really bolstered by this bit we see later. This guy is out, and like the TV here is very clearly meant to look like a bit of life support.
Yeah, God, I hated that scene.
Yeah, it's literally TV is a new religion, mass entertainment is a new religion.
Yeah.
It's not subtle at all.
No way.
This also just what this made me think of was how much. If we're talking how prescient Videodrome is, I looked at this scene and I thought, how often have you seen someone homeless in the street and they've got a smartphone
with it? I've got to say, I've never seen that.
I don't know where you're living.
I'll
say I don't know where you're living, Horrorshow.
I've never seen them with a smartphone. I've seen them with a lot of cigarettes and a lot of spice, but never with a smartphone.
I'll drop some real life deets that you might be interested in. Some low key proper horror show IRL, not on the TV deets.
Too hot for TV.
Too hot for TV, indeed. I was a very active volunteer with a couple of homeless charities for several years. That's where a lot of my knowledge on that comes from.
I was going to say,
smartphone access very common.
I was going to say, like, did the homeless people in your area only have like 2 bedrooms or something? Because they sound like very affluent homeless people. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I'm not surprised to hear that. But
In
I've
London,
never
it's
seen
a
it
lot
myself.
easier to have a smartphone than it is a room, you know?
Yeah, true.
Probably cheaper, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But yes, not uncommon, not uncommon. A bit jarring, but yeah. Some
yeah,
real life beats for you guys.
yeah. I mean, I want to hold off from commenting on this scene for a bit, because for now, after meeting Bianca, he goes back to watch a bit more Videodrome, and that's when it's established that he actually owns a gun. The gun being a Walther PPK, the same used by James Bond and the same used by Adolf Hitler to shoot himself through the head.
Is that right? A
Yes.
Walther PPK.
Yep, so Walther PPK. I know because my cousin was very nice and got me a load of cards that have small arms on them, and the 2 of diamonds is the Walther PPK. So yeah, it's the same as James Bond. Ammo capacity of 7, which obviously with my bullet autism, I want to point out more than 7 bullets were fired from this gun.
I love you, Haryan. You're fantastic.
But yeah, I mean, it was a bit. I mean, this whole scene was a bit odd because it's established he has the gun. We saw that was doing, and then he gets a knock on the door from his assistant. And I found this scene like really jarring because she comes in, she's like, "Hey, I've got a message for you. Can I come in?" And then she goes through his Betamaxes. And when she picks up Videodrome, he's like, "No, don't touch that." And it's the weirdest. It's the weirdest thing. He's like, "No, don't touch that." Runs over to her, takes it off her, and then slaps her twice in the face.
I know you're all
and
very
in-
disappointed I didn't make a John D edit of that.
Yes,
I
and in
was
one scene,
tempted.
Did Harry, and you say he slapped her twice. Did you notice the?
Yeah, she
first,
turned into Nikki. Yes.
Yeah.
She in one of the cuts she's Nikki, and then it goes back to what's she called? Don't remember her name. Friday. Yes. Oh, I shouldn't have forgotten that. That's the same as Robinson Crusoe's Strange Island, man. And then he's like, "Oh, sorry about that. Sorry for hitting you." And she's like, "You didn't hit me. What are you on about?" At this point, I'm like, "Oh, hallucinations are going on. I don't know why."
Well, it's funny because like even before he apologizes, the whole slapping bit, it sort of caught me off a bit. Guy, like, hang on, like, did they forget like how to act for a moment? Because that's definitely not how I'd be reacting if someone. Because she's like, "Oh my god, you're scared. You scared me. What's wrong? What's going on?" It's like, dude, you just got slapped twice in the face. What's going? And then he's like, "Oh yeah, sorry for slapping you." She's like, "No, you didn't." And it's like,
yeah, and you know, I'm like, "Oh, this is really weird. I hope this is explained properly because they've really made sure you know that he slapped her."
Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, no, it's like, "You didn't hit me." He's like, "Oh, no. I mean, when I sort of push you," she's like, "Are you all right?" He's like, yeah. I think I'm getting a rash.
Yeah, he's just acting really weird, and then he's basically says like, "Please." He's basically like saying, "Here's the door, please go." And she's like, "Oh, please tell me if something's wrong." And he's like, He doesn't say anything. He just like gives her a thumbs up.
Yeah,
as she goes, or a nod.
I really love what he does with this. Like,
yeah.
James Woods has been given this very surreal script, and bless him, he grounds you in it, and it is a struggle. He does a astounding job keeping you sort of in the logic of the film, even as you get confused. You know it's okay because he's confused.
Yeah, it really shows.
He's alarmed,
and it's like a bit like sort of jumping a bit ahead now. But when he has his friend come over, well, not friend, but the colleague who was like getting all of the pirate videos, and he gets him to come round. It's just another good example of him acting in like total and utter confusion. So when he turns around to the guy and he's like, he's just muttering to himself, just like randomly mumbling, like just saying just random stuff. And then the bit that got me was he was like, do you want to stay for a coffee? Oh no, don't. No, actually, no, it's fine. You go. I really like that. I really like that because it didn't feel rehearsed. It didn't feel acted. It felt very ad-libbed, just in the moment. And in terms of like acting confused and not too sure what's real or what not, and just being completely flustered, that little thing really worked for me.
Yeah, his decision to, you could go disorientated and like woozy and slow down, or you can be kind of more manic and speed up. And I'm really glad he sped up.
Yeah, definitely,
It's
100%.
very engaging choice. I mean, we have to talk about this. As you say, he watches the videotape and he suddenly sees it come alive. Now, something I absolutely have to mention, he's holding this videotape in his hand and it suddenly puffs like it's an organism.
Yes.
It's kind of like it's the Word made flesh, right?
Yes.
We've already been primed. The TV, the videotape is the new religion. And we've now got basically the Word made flesh. And bless them, they could have hammered it a lot harder, but I kind of think Cathode Ray Mission made it as blatant as you need it to be to provide you a lens through which to interpret future symbolism.
Yeah.
And then we move on, like the shot of the videotape, or I should say the Betamax breathing. It freaked me out the first time I saw it. It freaked me out this time. It caught me out.
I had to double
very
back on that.
effective, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the whole TV starts almost being organic,
Yes.
which is really well done. Like really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have to say.
this is the point where we have to give much due praise to Rick Baker. Horror obsessives will know this. Rick Baker is a legend in horror special effects. He is up there with Rob Bottin. He is up there with Stan Winston, with Dick Smith. He is a legend. And he actually studied under Dick Smith, starting when he was about 23, I believe, before getting his own gigs. And, you know, most famously, he was battling or racing against Rob Bottin to make the best werewolf effect. He was working on The Howling. Rob Bottin was working on, I should check that. Which way round was it?
I just want to say that I just want to say that Rick Baker worked under Dick.
Yes.
Was he watching the angle of his dangle?
Oh, bloody hell. Sorry, if I got that wrong. Rick Baker did An American Werewolf in London. Bottin did The Howling. There we go. And Baker also did a lot of the effects in Michael Jackson's Thriller. There you go.
Nice.
And Vincent Price did the introduction.
Yeah. They were very innovative in this. I mean, it's brilliant. You see, it's a material stretched over a frame which gives a little bit. It's a lot tougher than latex, which they often use for the sort of ghost in the walls effect. And then they puffed this material out and projected into it. But it just looks amazing.
Yeah, it was really good. And then, obviously the cathode comes out on her lips. Can't remember what she's saying there. But he's like,
she's like, come to me.
Yeah, luring him to Videodrome.
Come to Nikki. She's saying, come to Nikki.
What were you thinking when you were watching this, Haryan? Like, you knew nothing about this film, man. You're just suddenly you're watching this scene.
Well, this was the start of the many times I said, okay, is this real or not? I was kind of like, well, this is obviously a hallucination. And when his head's in the screen, I'm like, man, I'd really love to know what's going on, like, in the character's head right now. Like, what's he actually seeing there? Because I take it it's not just a real close-up of pixels. I take it he's seeing more. So, yeah, I was just having a good time trying to work out what was going through his mind and what his motivations were at this point, which I couldn't exactly tell, because then it just cuts back to the cathode mission.
And some very sort of trivial game show, which is, it feels like a very sarcastic cut. Just, no, guys, TV's harmless, don't you worry, look at the game show.
I mean, because I don't know if you mentioned before, but it was Brian O'Blivion's kind of talking directly to him. at the start of this, and we went mainly through the theme before of television is hyper reality, it's the mind to the soul, all that. It'll be everyone does it, which I don't know how risky it is to say. Well, it won't be risky, but James Lindsay's been saying a lot of this recently in a few podcasts I've seen him in.
Really?
Where he's saying, look, Twitter's hyper reality, real life is reality, and that's really not a good thing, really, because I think he explained it as he used to play World of Warcraft a lot, and he realized that whenever he leveled up in that, he was just making himself cool by proxy in hyper reality, and then saying it on Twitter made it even more real. And it's like, that's really not good, because we really need to go back to reality. And I think he does have a bit of a go at the neo-reactionaries there and basically calls them LARPers, but I think in a kind of fair way, where he's like, look, you're just going on Twitter and you're saying what you like and what you say you do. Whether you do that or not actually doesn't matter. It's the fact that in this hyper reality of Twitter, you're basically virtue signaling to them, which is probably true for some of them, not necessarily for all of them. And I got the same feeling here.
He might be confusing things there a little bit. I mean,
yeah, maybe.
If we wanted to call it a simulacra, I'd go for that. Hyper reality is weirder and harder to. Let's not derail with Baudrillard again.
No, but I'm saying this is what.
Love it, but
well, this is what Brian Oblivion's saying. It's like, look, TV's hyper reality. What happens on TV matters a lot more than in real life, and that's why we can get a load of morons looking aimlessly at a TV for hours on end and get them off the street.
Yeah, I mean let's see. I'm just trying to think through it because it is complex. Because Baudrillard uses the hyper reality to point out the artificiality of reality, and then as I understand it, and bear in mind, Baudrillard's bloody difficult for me. The actual reality gets crashed into by the real reality, the desert of the real. But yeah, it's meant to. Hyper reality is meant to show artificiality in what we consider to be real. Gosh, the things you find on a random horror stream. Oof.
Yeah, I know.
You Lord. It leads us into this other sequence that I thought was absolutely lovely. If I'm conscious of the time, so I'll just move this on to.
I mean, I'm good to go basically till midnight, but I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to stick around. Yeah, I mean, he goes back.
I could be on this forever, but I am.
Yeah, because before, I mean, just quickly before this scene, you do find out before this scene that Brian Oblivion is actually dead and has been for just under a year, and that it's actually his daughter who sends off videotapes instead of his live stream, his live link that was implied.
Love
before.
it that you called it live stream.
Yeah, I know.
Shocking. Shocking.
It was his premiere.
Yeah. Which I think is a major plot hole, but I mean, obviously we're low on time. So it's like, yeah, he's not real. And I was like, I already worked this out, but it's like, yeah, no, this is smart. And especially in the 80s, this would have been seen as, whoa, he's dead. I can see people saying that.
Yeah, I think that's a twist that doesn't hold up. I mean,
no,
I think there's a fair amount of cheating around Brian Oblivion, but
yeah. I mean, just quickly
back to it.
I mean, just going quickly into this plot hole, it's like she happened to find this video that was, all right, there's thousands, she probably knows them all, but when you actually watch that scene where it's supposed to be his live link and his live feed, he's like, it's almost like he's reacting perfectly. It's like he's leaning over, listening to those two, and then he's looking directly at people through the TV. Which in the 80s were probably not normal, but now it doesn't, because obviously we've all been through a pandemic and we've all been on live feeds in work meetings, and all everyone does is look directly at a screen in one direction. And I'm kind of, and when it was doing that, I'm like, oh, they've kind of got live feeding wrong. But then when you think about it, then anyway, it's like, okay, so he's reacting perfectly and answering questions, a bit weirdly, but in a cryptic way, but almost perfectly as well. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't believe in 1,000 videos you'd have that perfect.
No, it is a cheat. It is a plot hole. You are not wrong. Yes,
but I think it's a reveal we need to say. But then, yeah, we get she then gives him a couple of more videos of Brian
Mm.
and says, "Yeah, read them." And then he has a hallucination. I mean, he's just playing with his gun for some reason. Then his stomach opens up. His shirt. What do we call it before?
Stamussy.
Stamussy. It's really. I find this scene really weird as well. Like, it opens up and he's like, "What's that?" So he puts his gun in it. I don't know why you'd put your gun in yourself, but he does. And then his hand comes out without the gun, and then the gun's like completely gone after the hallucination's done. He goes around looking for it. And it's at this point as well, I'm like, okay, so how do these hallucinations work exactly? Which later on I don't think they answer, and I think they make it more confusing.
Yes, the logic of the biological gun is very questionable, especially at the end.
Yes.
But I would say the symbolism here is this is one of the ones where it's going a lot more for impact and symbolism. So that given that this is all largely about Max Wren being the subject of an experimentation to program people, and in his case to make him an assassin, really to highlight how susceptible people are to messaging. Thinking what's happened in this scene, he has a weapon in his hand that he's preoccupied with, and he then puts it inside himself. He has internalized it, if you will. Yeah?
Yeah, I can get that.
So the symbolism is obvious, but also we can't get away from the fact that Cronenberg is a body horror dude, and he is working with something that will physically make us very uneasy. And there is something about the fact that, frankly, we do not see a lot of vaginal imagery. That means when we see something like that in the wrong place, we are getting all sorts of like instinctual sort of reactions, like, whoa, feeling very uneasy watching that,
Yeah, it was very effective.
Yeah, you're like, what the heck am I watching? If any of you have seen The Lighthouse, similarly, you get strong vaginal imagery in that you're just not used to seeing, and it does shock you quite a lot. That's actually one of the things our censor brings up in the Guardian article I highlighted. There's sort of specific rules about how they're meant to deal with that, but that's taking us into quite anatomical territory that we should probably dodge.
Agreed.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I mean, again, very memorable stuff, not stuff you see elsewhere. It makes you feel very uneasy. But it's also powerful symbolism. He's internalizing it. This will become kind of relevant when we get onto The Fly, actually, in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Do you want to move us on to the next bit, Haryan?
Yeah, so after this scene, he goes out to a limo where he's contacted by what turns out to be the producer of Videodrome, Barry Convex, who is also acting CEO of a spectacular optical corporation who sell glasses. And yeah, at this point as well, I was like, so a glasses company is producing Videodrome. Oh, they're also a front for missile systems. That's really weird. It's just... What a weird three things to put together. Like, okay, arms company and Videodrome with the reveals you can kind of get, but it's like, why would you... Like, I'm sorry, an opticians is not a good front for that. in any respect. But he's, this guy's like, look, I make Videodrome, you've been looking into us. Come by my place, we'll talk about it. So that's what he does at what looks like the middle of the night. Like, I don't know about you. An optician's has never been open that I know of past 6 p.m. So this is a 24-hour one, I guess. But Convex happens to be in this random Canadian branch of it. And then he goes in and he says, look, we know you've been having hallucinations through Videodrome. We'd like to record them and get them analysed. And Max, being a bit of an idiot, says, "Yeah, sure." I don't know why you trust it. Like, look, you've basically been told, "Look, we make missile systems. We're really shady because we've got this spectacles front. Oh, and by the way, we also produce this torture porn." I don't know why at that point you wouldn't just leave. Even as Max, who wants Videodrome on the TV. Well, I don't even know if he wants Videodrome on the TV at this point.
No, I think it's moved on beyond that. I mean, he's having the hallucinations, and he's got the mission to find Nikki. But I think at this point he's told to put on this device that lets him record the hallucinations. But I do think his that shows him Nikki, which shows us that he's still quite motivated by finding her, by rescuing her.
Yeah.
But I also think he's just sort of, he is personally involved. Like, he's losing his own motivation a fair amount here. I think he's just becoming a more passive recipient of instructions, which he will literally become later.
Yeah, which I really don't buy at all, because of the way he is at the beginning. You don't become a partner / CEO of this production company saying, "Look, I need to find the next best thing," and then all of a sudden you're a pawn to other people's games. Well, not all of a sudden. I just don't. I don't think the development from one to the other was very good. Which is why if I was you what?
What do you reckon to that comment I've just flashed up?
I like this helmet. His son apes it a little in Possessor.
What do you reckon?
Yeah.
See it. I can see it, Page Unknown.
I mean, so much as it covers the whole head. Yeah, I guess. But yeah. So in this, while it's being recorded, they induce a hallucination. He sees Nikki. I can't remember what Nikki says to him, but then all of a sudden we're in Videodrome and the Videodrome studio, and then there's this television set with Nikki on, and she's like, punish me, whip me, all that. So he starts doing it a bit passively, and then he starts getting into it more actively, and as it zooms in on him, and it zooms out, and then it turns into Masha, who is actually in pain rather than enjoying it. To which then it cuts to him waking up in his sofa bed, and he notices next to him is the dead body of Masha.
And this really messes you up. Like, there's the sort of absurdity here of the TV puts out effectively a monologue. You cannot interact with it, but here he reacts with it and it reacts back. We're dealing with absurdity. We're dealing with hyperreality. And then it's made into this weird scenario where actually it does have the consequences. Her body is in his bed, which is sort of breaking that illusion of, it has no impact. I just put this imagery out there.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously it's affecting people he knows now, you'd think, but then he invites, what's he called over?
It's Harlan.
And he's
I remember a name, finally.
Well done. And he says, "Photograph what's in my bed." And Harlan goes in and he's like, "What, you want me to just take pictures of your sheets or something?" And he goes in and Masha's not even there. And he's like, "Right." And Harlan's mad. He's like, "You got me up at 6 a.m. now. You want me to go to the lab? Like, what's wrong with you?" And he's like, "Okay, just go to the lab. Let's see what Videodrome says and what's done there, because I think I'm on it." So then they end up going there, and Harlan basically says, "No, there wasn't any Videodrome last night. In fact, there's never been one. Here's Convex. You've been a patsy this whole time." Which knowing Matt's character, I just get the feeling he'd be really pissed off about that. But he's just like, at first he's like, "Oh, this is a joke, right?" And then they're just like, "Nah, you're all." Basically, he's told that he's their bitch now.
And this is after a lot of, he's been through a process. He's been pacified. They've been working on him.
It's literally 2 days. I don't buy it.
It's effective.
They do point out no one can resist the signal. Can't stop the signal, Mal.
Nah. I see. If I was rewriting this film, I'd basically have Max split into two characters. One being his PA, who's a man, and then have him as the pawn. And then they're like, "Oh, you want to join us, PA, don't you?" And then he shoots him. Like that. That's how I'd basically rewrite this. I don't. There's no point having video. Again, this explanation got me. So the whole point with Videodrome is basically when people watch this, they start hallucinating, but they also get a brain tumor, which will eventually kill them. And the idea is that this is the most morally degenerate stuff we can come up with. Anyone who watches it consistently deserves to die, so we want them to die. Oh, by the way, Max, right? We want you to be our pawn to kill people. And it's like, dude, you've got your own weapon anyway. Why do you need Max to do it? Like these are the people that at the start of the film were watching softcore Japanese porn and saying it was gay.
That's true.
Like, just make them watch Videodrome, they'll die. Like, you've won already.
I kind of love that. I'm sorry, I really bought into their idea of this absolute contempt that they have for the consumer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I brought into it as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, as Videodrome, you've won by the time Max has seen it and said, yeah, it's good enough for us. Like, why does he need to kill the other two? The other two wanted more than that Japanese gay shit. Just put Videodrome. You don't need to kill anyone.
Yeah, I got to admit, I did like the idea of the whole MK Ultra sleeper cell.
Yeah.
Kind of aspect of it.
What got me is that it just wasn't needed at all.
No,
they've won. They've won as soon as Max is on board with it.
But a bullet is quicker than a brain tumor.
Yeah, it is. But
I get what you're saying though. Like they didn't need to kill the other people because essentially they had the because they were just going along with gay shit.
Yeah.
No. Incidentally, if I may, I mean it's a short stream, so I can have a leisurely derail.
Yeah.
I do wonder if that geisha thing, it was Samurai Dreams it was called. I kind of wonder if that's inspired by a very specific film.
Seven Samurai.
No. Ai no Corrida, or what's it called in English? Valley of the Senses. That was it's a Japanese erotic drama that is it had quite an interesting history trying to be published in the UK basically. I'm being careful with details. There were things that were thought of as acceptable in a Japanese film that they didn't even consider sexual, that they couldn't put in a British film. I'm being careful with my details here. And it had quite a difficulty getting through uncensored. I'm kind of wondering if Samurai Dreams is a reference to that. That's possibly a bit too esoteric. I don't really recommend it, folks. It's quite a boring film after a while. Powerful at the end, but it's quite a slog, to be honest. Kind of like blue is the warmest colour. It's a lot to get through.
I haven't seen it, so I can't agree nor disagree.
No worries. I'll move us on to some absolutely horrific imagery.
Yes, I was going to say, what's the Betamax they put in his Shamusi as well?
Oh, well,
what was it again?
It's the extension of the metaphor. It's the idea that you literally internalize a message again. So
yeah, but what way? So
if you're being programmed by the show, by what you see on the airwaves, then they can literally put a videotape in you and make you replay a message. So in this case, putting a videotape in him, Betamax here, effectively makes him into something that, how can I say? He then has to reenact it. So it's just programming him.
Oh, so it's literally, okay.
Yeah, it's, the old Matrix receiving your programming training by getting the programs in. It's that, but on Betamax. I'm sorry that was incoherent, folks.
So they basically put it inside him. It's basically a kill list. And
yes,
apparently has to,
totally.
and then he. Well, I say apparently has to do it. I mean, right. Well, I mean, we'll go through step by step what happened. Well, not step by step, but,
Uh-huh.
we'll vaguely go through what happens from here. Because that happens, then he's in pain. The other two walk off. He goes into a corner. He pulls out the pistol from his shamusi again, which then it doesn't look organic. It's like these, I don't know.
Mm.
I want to call them like thin cables, like start coming out of his fingers and from the back of the gun into his hand, and start making it almost a part of him. And I'm like, oh, this is really weird. Why is that happening? And then next scene, he's going back to the mission, and his hand's not like that anymore. And this is why I don't like the hallucination. I'm not sure when a hallucination is real or not, and I don't really like that because
I can understand that.
It's really playing hard and fast with those rules, isn't it? Because obviously here he's directly, like, clearly the shamushi is real because he's put the Betamax in. So it's like, oh, okay, so the Walther PPK was really inside him. Okay, I don't get how that works then.
Well, yeah, I made a video about this on the issue with psychological horror is that frequently it's a way to sort of get some really cool imagery or scary scenes in, but not have them really affect the story because it was just a crazy hallucination.
Yes.
Like, oh damn, guys, 28 minutes in, throw in a scare scene. Oh, it's a hallucination. You cool. And
I don't want to say like it's using it as a crutch or anything like that, but
no. Weaker films do it. It's a temptation in weaker films.
Yeah, I get I feel this. Well, this film doesn't really use it as a crutch. I don't think it. I'm basically saying it's using it as a crutch, but at the same time, it's not. So I want to give this film more respect because it's doing it. It's doing these things better than your schlocky B-list films do.
Oh, totally.
But yeah, I mean, it's 11 at night, and I don't want to dwell on it too much. Because
effectively, this is his programming to kill, and we have the continued symbolism. The reason the gun goes biological is because effectively it's a part of him. The idea is that he has been operationalized, instrumentalized, and he is now effectively a tool. Except instead of him being mechanic, a gun becomes biological.
Yeah. And so after this, he goes up and kills the two partners, and then everyone hears the gunshots, and they're like, "Oh my god!" He like puts the gun, he like hides the gun in his under his jacket and pretends he's been shot. And Friday's like, "Oh my god, is that okay?" And she basically gets. I mean, even then, I'm kind of like, I guess you try and find him privacy in a room where she can tend to the wound better. It still feels almost a bit forced. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit weak, like, because you can't have his story end there.
Yeah. And Sonny makes out and she's like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" and all this. And he just leaves without saying anything. And then in the back alley, I did kind of like the Cronenberg seems to do this quite well. They make real life seem as they make like these back alley scenes and like when they're in public seem pretty realistic, where it's like these men are moving doors, and he's like trying to go one way, doors in the way, so it's like quickly, I'll go the other then, and then he finds a space when no one's about, and then he takes the gun out, fixes himself, puts the gun in a pocket. So I kind of like that, and then obviously we get to this, which I hated. It's like I'm sorry. So one, this guy has a TV next to him, which, I mean, as you say, smartphone. Okay, fair enough. Whatever. This is a sci-fi universe where this happens. But you got Max next to a picture of Max saying "Most Wanted," and you're telling me no one noticed that? Come on. Like,
it's the point. Hyper-reality. The divorce from reality.
No. I'm sorry. Like, okay, the guy's not really watching his cathode TV, which, I mean, from the mission, it's like, oh, these guys are addicted to watching TV. So already there, I'm like, oh, okay. But, I mean, I'm not being funny, but people glance at these things and they do take in images. And I'm not being funny, but when you've got two identical pictures next to each other like this, people are going to notice. They just do it subconsciously. I don't buy that people were just walking past this. And I don't buy that. I don't buy that Max would have seen that and been like, "Yeah, I'll just stand next to it in the open like this. This is fine."
I
No.
will give you that. I will absolutely give you that. At the same time, it really supports the Brian Oblivion statement of TV is more real. Like, this guy is a poor the real life Max Wren is a poor imitation of the TV Max Wren. But I do understand your issues with it.
I as I say, this is putting this is putting themes and all that above substance and the plot. And that is the opposite of what I like in my films. Because, the theme's really good, and I think it's a really good thing to explore. I just don't think the film does it that well.
Okay.
And I kind of like to see what Last Things has to say on something like that. Because this is why I'm saying, look, this is probably actually below a 6. And not much has been said that makes me want to put it above a 6.
Okay.
It's because of things like this, just especially the final part of the film. It's everywhere. It turns into a bit of a mess, unfortunately, which I'm quite surprised at by Cronenberg. So
yeah. Well, if I can speed us through in light of us passing the 3-hour mark.
Yeah.
I knew it would happen. He gets his next order, Bianca Oblivion, but she is prepared for him. He's shot by the TV in another fantastic, wonderfully bizarre bit of imagery.
Yeah, coming out the cathode TV. Yeah, she's like, "Oh, Nikki was a pawn as well. She, she was you. They were using her for you. She's actually dead." It's like, oh, neat.
And you're again completely messed around with. Wait, was he actually shot? No, he just believes he was shot, and it really further throws you into confusion.
And then he just, apparently Bianca plays the Yu-Gi-Oh card Change Your Heart, and then he's like, "Oh, I'll be your pawn instead." And the film's still trying to make me buy this for an hour telling me that he's a maverick and does what he wants. So
well, it's been broken down. There's a based message in there about ultimately the sheep will always obey. It's just
so not getting into an argument on that. He then goes to the spectacle place. Not Hayden. Harlan's there. He's like, "Hey, do you want to kill more people?" He's like, "Yeah, maybe." His shamusi opens. Harlan tries to put a Betamax in. He's like, "Oh no, I've got my own here that's all fleshy." And then when his hand's in, he's going like, He comes out. It's like, I don't even know what it's supposed to be. It looks like a World War II German stick grenade that's stuck in his hand. I don't know what it's supposed to be.
It, and I thought it was one of the sort of how can I say, one of the tape moving components within a VCR. And there was, when he blows up, I was like, oh yeah, it's an old German grenade. Okay.
Yeah, oops. I mean that was honestly one of the first things I thought. I'm like, wow, because I've been playing a lot of Battlefield 1 because I had them in World War 1 as well. I was like, oh, that looks like a stick grenade. I'm like, I wonder what it is because I really can't tell because it looks really fleshy and all that. It's like screaming going back and Max. I can't remember what Max says. He says like, it's not quite as bad as like a schlocky one-liner, and I can't remember what he says. I'm afraid, but he says it
either.
Yeah, and then it blows up in his hand, and the war blows out of the back. And Max like, "Oh, that's cool." Just walks through it. There's like this girl going like, "Oh, what was that?" And then the mother's like, "No, come here." And then they try and walk past it nonchalantly. I'm like, I'm not being funny, but a war's just blown out. You're not going to walk past it.
We're in the weird part of the film where, frankly, we have no idea what's real or not. Which, wait, was this it? See You in Pittsburgh? It may be.
Yeah, that was it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is difficult because at this point we don't really have an idea of what's real or not, which makes it hard to connect.
Yeah, because straight after this, he walked straight to the trade show because Harlan said, "Oh, what's his name? Convex is at a trade show about glasses." Because
unfortunately, the only image I've got from that is this.
Okay, allegory. You've not got time.
This
All
would be
right,
the
I'm
image you'd
kidding.
get,
I'm
wouldn't it?
kidding. All right, I did
Um,
get another one, but I just love that guy so much.
But yeah, it's very 80s trade show. All this is like, hey, you all know me, and I sure know all of you. And Max goes up, and it's gone full biological. Like the gun it's like an arm cannon at this point, and I'm like, wow, this is really weird. I assume this is just from his POV, and he's actually just holding a gun. And given the way everyone's reacting, I'm like, yeah, he's definitely holding a gun. And then, yeah, shoots him like 3 times, which he should only have 1 more bullet left after killing the other 2 people, but I'll let that go. So he kills Convex, and he says he picks up the microphone and says, "Down with Videodrome, long live the flesh." Which was a big thing from Bianca. It's like, Videodrome's trying to kill people, but really it can also turn you into this superhuman being that's the flesh. And that's what happens to Convex. He's seen Videodrome, so he dies, and then this.
He
well,
dies.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Cronenberg monsters come out of him. It's
I
really
can
weird.
clear that up.
Yes.
So what's happening there is that effectively the Videodrome signal is meant to kill off the despicable chattel underclass,
Yes.
right? But they have turned Max into a carrier of the signal. The gun fires the signal effectively. So what happens is that Convex then gets a concentrated dose of that signal, which causes him to die from tumors. And I did my best. I can't. I really did my best. Seriously,
No, you're memeing.
No, that's what's happening. This is. I can't really show what happens to Convex, but
Wow.
it's memorable.
No,
if
so
you've
space
seen...
cancers.
Yeah, no, really, that's the idea. It's not just a gun; it's the signal, which is why when he's shot, he explodes with these horrific tumors.
Yeah, that really wasn't passed along properly in the at least not on my first viewing. I guess Bianca maybe mentioned it.
It takes no, I don't think she really mentions it. It takes a heck of a lot to work out why the heck this happens.
That's even worse. just let him shoot him. That's all he had to do. Oh my god. Oh, I thought things we'd go through would make me want to put this film up. Everything we've gone through makes me want to put the score down.
Oh, in that case, ignore me. I didn't say that. And actually, the guy he'd eaten a lot of cauliflower.
So
let me shot the cauliflower bursts out. That's what happens.
So let's just get to the end, because I want to say what I thought happened. Because basically, you get to this condemned vessel, which I'm like, oh, that's kind of smart framing. Like, Max is a condemned vessel. I get that. That's cool. So yeah, he goes in here, finds a cathode TV, and it's got Nikki on, and she basically explains, as I said before,
TV is also named Videodrome. If you look at it, it is labeled Videodrome.
Yes. And she basically says, these tumors, they're actually basically a new type of higher form of being trying to get out of you. The only way to let them get through is to kill yourself. Just copy what the screen does, and then you see Max kill himself on screen, then it explodes and blood and guts fly out the screen.
What you see there is Indian YouTuber teaching you how to do something moment.
Yes, exactly. So then Max gets up, says long live the flesh, kills himself. Implied it kills himself because it cuts to black, and then the gunshot goes off, and it rolls to credits. So I thought what was happening with Convex was that he was turning into the higher being. But no, it turns out it's just concentrated cancer.
Yeah, no, I think that's not what Nikki's saying. She's basically just she's carrying
it too literally.
She's carrying on the theme that Brian Oblivion did of effectively the signal is more real than the flesh. Get past the flesh is outmoded. Basically, you've done so much now that you don't need the flesh. So it's not that the tumors were a higher mode. It's just like you're better than your flesh, so abandon your flesh now. So the signal is the new flesh, as I understand it.
That was my takeaway from it. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Abandon reality,
Mhm.
if you will. Live in hyper reality.
Oof. This film got that. This film portrayed that quite wrongly. Then.
Look, be kind,
Oh.
Haryan. I think, just stop and think how much I could have made out of this scene. Where is it? Gosh darn it. Where is it? I wish I had saved it already. Just imagine I'm landing this punchline with perfect timing. Imagine how much I could have made out of this scene of James Woods being casually fisted. I didn't. I moved past it for you, Haryan.
Someone to care for. Have my fist for. I have James Woods.
Yes.
Oh.
It ends on him saying, "Long live the new flesh." I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think this is sort of a thing of all the thematic points had been made when Convex died and was shot. And this did feel to me, every time I've watched it, it's felt a lot more like, and now we're going to end the film. Did you have that vibe?
I don't know what else they could have done with him, to be honest. I don't know where else his arc could have gone, because he went from a really interesting character to a really, like, uninteresting pawn. And I'm like, yeah, kill yourself. You may as well. Because it's like, okay, you've killed. Well, she even says like, oh, you've only done a bit of damage. Like they'll regroup and all that. And I'm like, yeah, but they know who he is. Or get killed. I don't think I can do anymore. And then they're just like, oh yeah, just kill yourself. But this is the thing. If you're, is it just a theory or is it confirmed by the film? I don't know. But if he is the concentrated Videodrome signal, I don't know why they'd kill himself. If he's just a pawn, I can see why they would. Because if he's got concentrated Videodrome signal, it's just like, find degenerates, shoot him.
Yeah, I think the idea of taking down the network is not really explored, and they weren't massively interested in exploring it. So they kind of done the thing to get the idea out, and then it's like, okay, we will now bring the film to an end.
Yeah, you really need a remake of this film. It's got a really good theme, but the execution is, the first 30 minutes are pretty good. Ugh.
Okay,
I have to say that.
TCG, thoughts on the ending?
Yeah, it felt a bit directionless for me. Again, I agree with you in that it felt like, okay, we've done what we need to do. Let's just end it.
Yeah. It's
not really much else.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Like, it would seem to me like it would be more. How can I say? I would have been a bit happier with he shoots Convex and is then gunned down, and his last words there on the stage are "Long live the new flesh."
That would have been better. This is why I said it feels like it feels like this was kind of like opening it up potentially to a sequel, because you're sort of ending it here. Then the next film would be him in the new flesh, you know.
Yeah. I think I'd be remiss if I went on without mentioning that one consistent thing I read was James Woods really hated the Stamussi.
Yeah.
He hated that.
Yeah.
He had to be, it's done as you'd expect, very similarly to how John Hurt's chest burster effect in Aliens was done.
Okay.
So latexing the actor into a fake torso. This James Woods had to put up with so many hours of forced immobility to make that work. Absolute trooper.
Right.
And he hated it. And so bless him for sticking with it, because gosh darn it, it's quite unforgettable. You try and forget it. It will not work. You can't get the image out of your mind. Shall we round up? We have now got to the end of the film. The we have proclaimed long live the new flesh. Shall we go for closing thoughts?
Yeah, Super Nanny's banging on my door. Can we wrap this up before she slaps me, please?
I'm sorry, guys. It's a thematically rich film. All right.
It is.
Yeah, I see. Oh, crikey. Scores are already coming in. Hello, Murgoot, with a first score. Thank you so much. All right.
Well, 9 televisions.
I love you, Murgoot. Not just for that shill. Good lad. TCG, would you like to go first with your closing thoughts and score?
Yeah, I just think, like I said throughout, I think this is quite an interesting film that seems to have added more to its thematic approach as the years have gone by and our own technology has advanced to a point where we're now looking at this film and seeing quite sort of striking similarities with the way that we communicate with people nowadays. Yeah, I think if this was like 20 odd years ago or even longer, for me it would probably be getting a lower score. But I think it seems to have hit the nail on the head. As time has gone on. The only thing obviously that it got wrong catastrophically was obviously the technology we use, but I think that's it's more of a metaphor, really. In terms of the actual film itself, it's all right. It's all right. I mean, James, because of your shill, mate, I bought the film. So hopefully I've lined your pocket in some little way. Consider that a super chat on your behalf or something. But yeah, no, I'll definitely watch this again. It'd be interesting to watch it in 20 years' time, see if it's got any more right. But I'd give it a solid 8. Lots of cheese. Practical effects were absolutely beautiful. So plenty of ketchup. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. I'd go for similar. I struggle with the idea of remaking it because it's just like you can't be prophetic if you just remake this about like, oh yeah, this is happening.
True.
Now. Gosh darn it.
True.
So they'd have to take the gamble.
But it'd be interesting to see how they sort of tie the theme of this film back then using the technology that we have now and tying that in. But then I suppose you could argue it's already been done in some other ways, because I know there's films out there that have. Am I thinking of films or video games? But there's like something to do with mobile phones, and there's like an app, and it just will suck everyone. I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of Terminator Genesis.
There's a few that come to mind. I'll go for the least spoiler one. Would be a much troubled production of a Stephen King novel by the name of Cell, which I think came out in 2018 or 2019. But it was a bit of a disastrous production, and they just dropped it in January, about 3 years after they made it. Even though it had Samuel L. Jackson and, oh gosh, what's his name? The guy who was in 1408. John Cusack.
Yeah.
Sorry, it is late, and I struggle with names at the best of times. But yeah, that also dealt with mobile phones putting out a sort of evil signal.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was literally giving out the synopsis to Terminator Genesis.
Gosh.
Maybe a remake isn't such a good idea after all.
Yeah, I love it for what it is. I would polish up the ending. The ending is the main thing for me.
Yeah,
because it does lose a fair bit of steam. But bless it, even saying it loses steam, it's 89 minutes long. So it's not wasting all that much time, frankly. It's incredibly thematically rich. I think it's one of the more consistent stories in this period of Cronenberg, and I can't get over the practical effects. They're still gorgeous. The soundtrack is gorgeous. It gives me endless food for thought. I rate this really highly, really, really highly. This is. I can't take it lower than a 10 out of 12 burgers. I really like this film.
Ooh.
Fair enough.
I really like this film. And as you know, lots of ketchup. Easy water.
Oh no.
So
Over
I'm
to
just
you.
I'm just going to say,
Oh,
Harry,
sorry.
before I'm just
Oh,
going to
God,
say,
yeah.
Harry, before you give your review of the film, your score,
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to remind you that James Woods is potentially lurking in the chat. So
Well, James Woods. Well, I was about to say James Woods was fine in this film. No, James Woods wasn't fine in this film. James Woods was really good in this film.
really good.
The
Thank
acting, the acting was great. The plot and the writing are where it falls down mainly. As I say, I mean the relationship between Max and Nikki, it's bright. I literally, I've never seen anything like it. It's like half a day later, it's like, hey, come over to my house. It'll be great. Do you have any porn? No. All right, let's watch this hardcore torture then. It's like, oh, this is normal. And then it's like, apparently he's so infatuated with her that he can be manipulated by her image, which I don't buy by any
Simp.
means. It's not a simp though. He
Oh,
watches
simp.
porn for a living.
I'm sorry, it's
Um,
2022. I can believe that thing happening. My hopes have dropped this much.
No, it's not. No, this is like Patrick Bateman being a simp. No, it's not possible. Plot issues are just everywhere. Like more so than I thought coming into this. I didn't think this would happen. I think my rating's gone down for this film after we've talked about it,
No, Haryan, no.
which is actually incredible. Because if Last Things is listening, look, I just focus on plot. Like the theme of this is great. The ideas it goes into, they're great. It's just that the plot really could have explored them better rather than, because as you say, Max is, you could say he's a libertarian. He's just a guy who's putting these things forward. He doesn't care what other people say. It's just, look, I'm offering a service here. Who cares? But then it goes to, yeah, Videodrome's this like really moral, like, it's a moral crusade to kill all the moral delinquents. Can you help us? Apparently, he just goes along with it, and that's really easy broken as well because he just sees Bianca and she's like, oh, they actually manipulated you. Now do my bidding. I'll manipulate you instead. And he's like, yeah, sure, all right. And he kills himself, and I'm like, oh. When you actually get down to what this plot is doing, it's not very good. I'm afraid to say it's really not very good. It needs a remake. Like these themes are really good and deserve a better plot than what is given here. So 4 out of 12, no cheese.
Wow.
Yeah, this isn't a good film.
Can I at
You're
least
not a
get-
good film.
Can I get you to 5 at least for the physical practical effects?
No.
Oh, okay.
The plot's just. I'm afraid it's all over the place. Max isn't consistent. All right, Nikki is, but like, really, you have to. Your mind has to be disengaged for this to work. I'm afraid. Well, not
there you
disengaged. You have to. Sorry, let me not put it that way. If you focus mostly on the themes and what it's trying to get you to think about, and think less about the plot, I can see why people like this, and I can see why it's a cult classic. Unfortunately, I go plot first, right? Okay, that's good. What are the themes then? And yeah, this plot, all over the place, I'm afraid.
All right.
Yeah, this is an unpopular opinion, JC. I know.
4 out of 12.
4 out of 12.
Absolute.
Yeah, I'm afraid. It's just.
All right. Okay. PCG, read out how wrong I was.
Yeah. Okay, so for prediction for Haryan, what's a Betamax Gláeddyv? Haryan liked this film, though he has some key problems. He likely felt it accelerated into extreme sleaziness very quickly, called that, and probably has issues with the role of hallucinations. Example, are they a more cynical way of getting cool imagery in without having to commit the story to the direction indicated? Particularly with Masha's body turning up in Max's apartment. He may have felt the story barreled away from real consequences. He also likely feels the death to Videodrome angle is terminated abruptly at the end of the film, i.e. was killing the pirate chap and Mr. Convex really sufficient? Does the film run out of anywhere to go? Still, as a Possessor fan, he appreciates the memorable body horror imagery and the message of technology overtaking us. He will likely object to the Brian oblivion existing through videotapes and not being detected as too convenient, especially in the opening scene.
Nailed it.
He enjoys the flavour in the film, the lack of blandness, and the pacing. Overall, it's a strong one for him. 9 out of 12 burgers, suspicious toppings. Do you know what? In your defence, Horrorshow, you got quite a lot of that right. Just the score.
Yeah, again.
Look at this. Look,
I swear,
chat are revolting, mate. Chat are revolting.
Chat are free to revolt. I understand this is an unpopular
Oh, look,
opinion.
here he comes, the libertarian. Yeah, they're free to do that. It's fine.
Chat running a train on Haryan right
But
now.
a proper horror show's done it again. You're like, oh, theme and visuals are good. It's like, yeah, I don't care.
Let's just take Haryan's score as not suitable for children.
Thank you, Henry. Yes, absolutely. Okay.
I'd apologise, chat, but you're all wrong.
I'm gonna learn this lesson. There is one particular film that I've been very worried about. Like, what the hell is Harry going to think of this film? And that is Mulholland Drive. Ooh. I am going to have to remember your score for this. And I'll still get it wrong, but I hope for the best.
Well, but that might end up being a see no evil thing where everyone's like, oh, this film was terrible. I'm like, no, it's pretty clever. There's good writing there.
It's very clever. I'm just I don't know if it'll work for you or not. Anyway,
we'll see.
We have absolutely infuriated Super Nanny. So I will end it very quickly. But before I do that, Haryan, do you have anything to say?
What was the last video I made? I say that all the time. 2 days ago, I made a video that for some reason's relatively popular to my recent ones, and it's about The Guardian did like a little interview with this trans choir in London, and I was like, wow, this is really weird. I'm gonna have to cover it. And it's just being realistic about it. I'm not even harsh. I'm just like, this is weird, and they're clearly just doing this for like their own gains, and they don't really care about the music. They just want to say what they want to say, and that's fine, but it's not very entertaining. But the Guardian's pushing this as oh my god, they're so base, look at their resistance, oh good. And I'm like, that's really cringe. So I go through that for 20 minutes. I was on Regional Variations last night on Tail Features channel, and I'm probably going to make a video tomorrow on what I don't know, but we'll find out. And just, a final thing to chat. I'm sorry, you're all just wrong. Videodrome isn't very good.
I love the chat rebellion. Yes. Mergu, I tell you that the temptation to go full Lynch is building. Yeah. How about you, TCG? Anything to chill?
Nothing. Well, last week I finally released the Amityville case. So if you haven't already, check that out. Apparently 44% of my audience who voted on my community post told me that they didn't actually get a notification. So do check it out. I haven't got anything this week. I'll be honest, work and also GTA was upgraded on the PS5. So I've been playing that a little bit this week. Slacking, I know. But I have identified my next case, and I'm hoping to have that out next Thursday. So stay tuned.
Excellent.
Think, if you want a clue, think Jordan Peterson.
Ooh. Intriguing. All right, and as for me, nothing to shill, folks. Nothing to shill. I'm hard at work on many a thing, but nothing that is going to be ready anytime soon, I reckon. I don't want to overpromise and under-deliver. So all I will tell you about is next week's horror homework. It's aliens. We actually have an alien film in every decade of horror sci-fi, and I am extremely happy to announce that we have Lambda returning to cover Aliens.
Oh, sweet.
So I'm so happy about that. That is going to be back on Tuesday.
I take it Lambda's replacing Haryan.
Well, unless
Because-
Haryan can grow a sufficiently quality beard,
Oh god. Well,
Or-
we'll see what I can do in a week.
Or grow a decent opinion on a film.
All my opinions are 100% objective and great.
Yeah,
There is
objectively
no
and
flaw.
greatly wrong.
Like, find one
Listen-
flaw in my opinions.
Listen to the crowd, my friend. Listen to the know your audience.
Chat is angry. Don't diss chat. All right, folks, you got it here. Yes, extended cut of Aliens. Watch it. It is an absolute
God,
classic. Right. Even if you've seen it, you want to rewatch it. It's an absolute crowd pleaser. So we will be doing that on Tuesday with Lambda. I will leave it there, and I will thank my wonderful guests and you, chat, for keeping it nice and lively. I will issue hearty apologies to Super Nanny, and I'll finish with saying thank you. Also, it's that late. I'm that tired. Thank you. Cheers.
Hashtag Shill Gang.
Got you in the pipe.